Buck, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
So this is going to be a little different right now because
Here we go.
we only here we go when the Cowboys win, and they won this week. But because they lost the season, shot of 99 proof red. What are you shooting, sir? Absinthe?
Yeah, some green stuff, some absinthe.
I detest you. You're all garbage. All of you. Back up the truck. Back it up. See, I told you. Bring out the tarp. Cover the field. I can't watch this anymore. It's over.
Oh, my God.
Turn the lights out. Let's get the bulldozers in here.
This is OutDrank The Coverage. And if you saw our new short that we debuted Sunday, honestly, that was one of those that studio-wise said, y'all never really thought about doing that before? And what I'm talking about is we made picks by doing 3 straight shots, made our picks of the Sunday schedule. I think we did Monday too. And then we took another shot to finish off. And I then proceeded not to drink most of the rest of the afternoon because I didn't need to. That 10:45 in the morning one was enough for me.
Yeah, I was on an empty stomach too, so I immediately ate after our short, and I did have a little bit of a nap after probably between 3 and 4.
It was fun though. Oh, you had one of my naps, the afternoon nap.
Yep, the classic Terry afternoon nap where I send him messages after 3 o'clock, and I don't hear from him until the next day.
Oh, so you usually hear from me about 5 or 5:30, depending on the Sunday game and what we're watching and all. This is OutDrank The Coverage here, of course, right here on L4 Media. This is our last show of the year. I used to be really, really big into like all the, remember how SportsCenter would do the year-end stuff, the year-end football. I used to be really big into that. Now I don't know why none of that stuff really grabs me anymore.
Well, probably because we're inundated with all this information online. We kind of just are footballed out at some point, or information overload is a thing.
Oh, I mean, definitely. Even if we weren't doing these shows, you and I are both the type of people that we would be doing this. This is why I said, hey, why don't you do a show with me? You basically, we talk this stuff anyway, so let's do a show. And speaking of, I hope I'm not jinxing you by doing this, but to intern Noe, the pro, the commissioner,
I am the champion.
I hand over I am the champion to you, sir. Carry it well. Congratulations, you're going to win one of the leagues. I didn't even see who's winning the other league. I guess I need to check that.
I think it's, was it John Stafford?
Oh, yeah, he's beating Mario pretty bad, I think.
Yeah, he's the one that's been just trolling us this entire season, and he's the one that's going to end up winning.
He's talking a little crap, being a little Ruxin about it, or maybe more like Pete. A little bit more like Pete, I think.
He didn't even have a great regular season. He just coasted in, and meanwhile, I had a great regular season. I went 10-4, finished second, and then I get destroyed in the semifinal. And yeah, the old Yeller Teeth. That's his name. That's his team name. But yeah, him and Mario are kind of still battling it out. But yeah, I think he's gonna win.
Well, congratulations to both of them. Of course, I was the 2-time champion of both. One of both. I have won one league twice, and then I won both leagues last year, becoming the first in the long storied history of our fantasy football season. We got to get better control over those, man. It's just one of those things, man, with what I do and everything. It's like August 1st hits, and that's been around me long enough. And it's like I blink and it's September, and it's already the NFL. And I've been setting up all these high school ducks in a row. The NFL is a little bit easier simply because we just roll out of bed, watch football, and all that kind of stuff. And so I got to get better on the leagues. I really would like to do more with our leagues and have more fun with them and all, but we'll figure that out. Anyway, Abby, what are you doing, dog? Studio dog sniffing the computer. I don't want her to tear it.
In the league I'm supposed to win in, I had Bijan tonight, and I'm only down by 0.2 points. So,
cool. So you might win
unless he has some random injury on the first snap, I got this one.
Dude, thanks a lot. because I have him. Oh man, way to go! No, I was only in one championship. This was the worst year I've had since 2015. In saying that, of the 7 leagues, I made the playoffs in 3 of them. So I mean, it wasn't that bad. Oddly enough, as you were talking about, John, I think this happens to everybody. My best team got beat in the semifinals. My 4th place team has now made it to the championship, and it's going to be 50-50. I think I will win, but it'll be close. If I don't win, even as bad as my 2015 season, this would be the first time since I started using this username at Yahoo that I would not have won a championship. I always do 7 leagues, and I always at least win 1 championship. But in saying that, last year was my best year. Out of 7 leagues, I had 5 championships.
Why 7?
I like the uneven. So 25th, I started this. I can't remember why I started this this username for fantasy. Some had happened to my old one, and so in 2015 I started it. In 2015 and 2016, I did I think I did 8 or 9. I can't remember, but for 3 years I just was terrible. I'd always win one random one each year to keep a streak going, but my win-loss was terrible. In 2018, I'm like, I am going to I mean, it was terrible, dude. I'm like, I am going to fix it. Well, the best way to do that is you go uneven. That way you always have a win or a loss. You're not having even weeks where it's 4 and 4, 4 and 4, 4 and 4. So finally it took from 28, this is how bad my numbers were. And I was in a lot of leagues, like 2016, I was in 14 leagues, and then I abandoned half of them halfway through the season because they suck, because I'm not being able to pay attention. I started the rebuild of that in 2018. In 2023, I finally reached 500 overall. And since then, last year, I shot out to 20 games over 500. This year, I basically still finished about 500 in my leagues. Man, I even showed you, I was either in first in leagues or complete last. I didn't have the middle until my 4th place team, which actually was my 1st place team until Lamar got hurt, and I lost a couple games where he was out, and But anyway, so that's why I like to have the uneven, so I have a clean. I don't want no 8-8-1s in my house. Oh, God dang it! All right, so
we have some people on the chat already.
Oh, cool. So this will be a little bit different of a show. We're going to talk the NFL. Like we always do when we do these live shows, and we'll talk about this past week and everything that happened. But we're also going to peel the curtain back. We're going to go ahead and record our holiday show. Now, on the holiday show that you see live, there won't be video of what we're talking about. But tonight, I'm going to cut this out, and we're going to... Studio dog! Gosh, she's all over the place. What are you eating? I don't know what Grant put over there, but she's eating it. That's probably not a good thing. But anyway, but when I put out the holiday video Friday, I will have the video that we're talking about. Like, we give our 5 favorite Cowboy Thanksgiving games, the worst ones, the good, all that. So anyway, so if you want to just watch that when it comes out, once we get through talking the current NFL, we'll take a 5-second pause, and then we'll start the holiday. That's why I'm wearing this. I've got the Thanksgiving and the Christmas all at once. All right. So... now, after all that, intern Noe the Pro, how are you doing? And what are you drinking?
I'm doing good, and I'm drinking some Jack Daniel's Single Barrel. It's the only Jack Daniel's I actually do like. Drinking it neat, and yeah, it's.
Is there
it is 66% alcohol, so it's very strong. So it'll be a slow sipping night.
When we hit the holiday part, you're going to be like the drunk uncle. Let me tell you something about minorities, okay? And it could be 50-50. It could either be they're the salt of the earth, or we should put them on a boat and send them back. And you're like, oh, God, salt of the earth. Ooh, thank God. I am being highfalutin on this day and drinking, I keep it cold, Tito's.
Back to Tito's.
Well, only because my mom was up for Christmas, and I don't want to feed her that swill that Taka is for her Bloody Marys. And so I got her, some Tito's, and I get to drink the rest. And by the way, somebody asked me about this. The reason I do this is I like my drinks to be cold, my liquor. But if you ever keep putting ice in liquor, it gets to be a pain in the butt, especially right now because our ice maker in our fridge broke. And so we're having to buy bagged ice until we get a new fridge coming in a couple weeks. So I decided one day, well, what if I just put it in this? And it's from ice cold into this. Dude, it will stay ice cold till tomorrow. And so then I'm not wasting liquor because I kept, as much as I wanted ice in it, as soon as it got watered down, I don't want to drink that anymore. And so I would just pour, you know what I'm saying? You just pour it out.
What kind of bottle is it?
It's just a Walmart thermal bottle. It's the same. It's the little baby brother of Big Dong, Black Dong, as I call him, or as Jeannie calls it, Noe. Wait, what? No, it's the same $8 bottle. These are best ones I've ever had. We got them on sale. The big one was like 16, and this one was like 8, and they normally run like 30 and 24. Got them at the beginning of the football year, so love them.
It's not even a sponsor. Nice.
Not even a sponsor, but we need one of that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it now. Let's talk Week 17, and man, what a weird, wacky week it was. As you and I always say, I don't know why. Why are there teams that all they have to do is win? And all they have to do is beat a bad team, but for some reason they just can't do it. We saw that again yesterday. The Buccaneers. Well, I mean, they're just backsliding at this point. They never fully got out of that spin that you and I thought was because of the toughest teams they were playing. They're still looking like crap.
Yeah, when you said that, I thought you were talking about the Steelers Browns
That was
game.
going to that one next one. That was the next one.
Yeah, I mean Tampa. I think they started 6-1. And they've won what 2 out of the last 8 or so, something like that. I know they're 8-8, but they still have a chance to win the putrid NFC South. They got one of the 3 big games on the weekend is Buccaneers and Panthers, and I think it will be in Tampa. So they can somehow luck their way into a division title.
Well, and here's the thing: you talk about. I at least understand Pittsburgh, Cleveland. That is a blood rivalry. That is a visceral hate rivalry. I know Browns fans, their season was made yesterday. So I get that. Buccaneers losing yesterday, that just made no sense to me. I mean, you're playing a Miami team that's basically been checked out. Give them credit, though. Miami Daniels is going to keep his job. I don't see them firing him now. I mean, he can make the case, give me an offseason with Quinn Ewers, and let's see what we can do with him. But you still, if you're Buccaneers, and Mayfield was talking a couple weeks ago about he's tired of everybody always looking down on them when they win the South because they don't have the best record. Okay, then stop losing the games like against Miami, man. Like that just... Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah, and with the Panthers, kudos to Dave Canales and company. They're 8-8. That's a much better season they had last year, but they are not consistent. It's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Now, by that logic, they should win this Saturday, but who knows? It's just been such a weird season in that division, or just really in the league in general, especially in the AFC conference. But it's going to come to an end soon. I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, I did. Again, we always say it, getting old, but man, the football seasons just go by faster and faster. I mean, saying that, we still have got 2 months of playoffs, basically. The way it's set up. I mean, I know it's not quite 2 months, but that's what it feels like because I count this. And we got to talk about that because, man, one of the things we got to figure out a way, and I don't necessarily know if it means starting Labor Day weekend, but I am tired of Super Bowl being in February. It needs to be in January. You said it the other day. Happy Hail Mary Day. That was 50 years ago. I think 2 days ago. Was
yes,
when
sir.
that happened. Yeah, we've got to have playoff games in early January again.
Yeah, they're not going to change the number of games in the regular season. In fact, if anything, they're going to double down and increase it to 18 at some point.
And that's what that talk has started again.
So the only other option is to start the season in early August, which is muggy and hot. But also think about it, January and February are also super cold. So you can just get all the seasons in the NFL that way. I agree with you. I'd rather the last game of the season be the last Sunday of January. That's football Sunday. Like make it that a tradition, like the 4th Thursday in Thanksgiving. Well, American Thanksgiving. I think Canadian Thanksgiving is the 2nd Monday in October.
Yeah.
But yeah, make it a tradition. The last Sunday of January. That's always going to be super Sunday.
See, that would be fun, dude. Like that would be a blast. Like I would enjoy that so much. I really would. And I like how I wish they would go back to, and I know you got a Sunday night game and a Saturday doubleheader, but I really wish Sunday all the games started at noon like they do in EPL. And I think they did that a couple of times and then kind of went away from it. But I think all games that are played on the same day, except, again, you get the Sunday night game, that's fine. But all games played on Sunday outside of that one should all start at noon. That way nobody knows what's going on. Now, this year you don't really have that many side ramifications, but still, on a normal week, usually you got way more scenarios in play than we actually do right now.
Yeah, yeah. My only concern, my only thing I don't like about this last weekend is the fact that the Seahawks and 49ers are not the Sunday night game. They are a Saturday night game.
I like
Tampa, Steelers, Ravens are going to close out the regular season.
See, I actually like that. I like one of the big games being on Saturday. If you're going to put two games on Saturday, I'd have put them both on Saturday.
No, what I'm saying is no, because there's three games that are going to decide division. Two of them are on Saturday: Tampa, Carolina, and then Seattle, San Francisco.
Yeah,
But
I
on
like
Sunday
that.
night, for me, I feel that Seattle, San Francisco is the biggest one because that's going to decide the number one seed.
Yeah, but they're both in.
They're both in, but this is like home field advantage, bye
To me,
week.
win or get in's way more, especially well, it really wouldn't matter who you're talking about, but especially when we're talking about two teams like Baltimore and the Steelers, where and let's just go ahead and kind of get into this. Like we mean you've been referring to as the wild and wacky AFC. Both of those teams, whoever wins that game, and if it's Baltimore and Lamar is healthy, I want to predicate that. But if he's healthy, they win. Or if the Steelers win, both of those teams could be very much dark horses. I could easily see both of those teams making it to the AFC title game.
If Lamar's hamstring is fine, then I think the Ravens can go all the way. But the Steelers, they're kind of capped.
Oh, I disagree 100% on that, man.
I just don't see it. They go back and forth. They hot and cold.
I agree
I'm
with all.
I'm okay with them losing to the Browns. This is a division game. You kind of have to throw logic away. And they didn't have DK Metcalf, and they won't have DK Metcalf for this last game either.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, yeah, it's win and in. One of those teams is gonna be out of the playoffs. One of those teams is gonna be the 4 seed. Probably get served up to Chargers or the Bills or the Texans.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I finally was able to get through doing all. I always got to do these little things while we're talking early. That's why sometimes when we're talking early, it seems like I'm kind of trailing my thoughts. I'm setting things up as we're doing to record. So everybody in the room, congratulations, guys. Oh, yeah, it is the Monday night finale. I like that Monday night doesn't play the last week of the season. I think that's kind of cool, too. You kind of just take that last day.
Yeah, this is the season finale for Monday night. Last week was the season finale for Thursday night football, which was the Christmas night game. And I don't know. I kept getting tired of the cameras panning to Travis Kelce, but you kind of understand why. Well, I thought he might play another year. This is just a bad year for the team.
Doug says, so you're not going to do play-by-play of the Georgia Southern Appalachian State Bowl game? Nah, I think we're going to skip that one. Just this one time. I like here's his other comment talking about fantasy.
Oh, man. That sounds just like me.
Oh, man. Hey, Jason Smith, Doug, Mario, welcome. Jason Smith celebrating that state championship at Stephenville. One intern, Noe the Pro, was in studio for that game as he got to watch Stephenville just absolutely grind down Kilgore. I blame you for the crappy 4A games, Noe. Every time, this is the third year, and now the 3 years we've had like one good game, and that was when Belleville got upset by Gilmer.
Yeah, my bad, man. But I got to bring in the numbers. We had over almost 20,000 people watch. So I usually bring in the numbers. It has nothing to do with the fact that it was like 4A.
Yeah, well, it was probably the most highly in the classes that I cover. It was Wall and Newton, and that one is the two. Well, and I guess Munster and Shiner, because that was a rematch of a close game last year. Wasn't close this year. Munster dominated. But anyway, so yeah, going back to it's gonna be one of those shows, folks. Going back to it, I legitimately, yes, I believe with Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf back in the lineup, and that defense is just good enough. I don't know the status of TJ Watt, where he's at and all, but yeah, I could easily see them going. Because look, who are you going to trust? An Aaron Rodgers or I always want to say Hunter, Trevor Lawrence in a playoff game? Not to the championship game. In the title game, Aaron Rodgers sucks, but he's great in the wild card and divisional rounds.
That is a good point, and I would like to see Rodgers get into the playoffs.
I've kind of come back around on him. Now that once he shuts up and it's not the off season, he's still fun to watch. He is that guy and they did a really good story about him a long time ago. And I think I've told you about this. They talked to some of his guys at California, and they just were like, he's just kind of odd. He's quirky. And you see that in the game. He just him and Phillip Rivers aren't too much different in that way. Aaron's a little bit quieter though. Phillip will yell and stuff, but Aaron's just real quirky and odd. And I like to watch the old man throw the ball around, man. He still got it.
Yeah, he still has it. There was no question about his football acumen or his performance. He's still, even at 42 years old, he still has it. You put him around the right team, a well-balanced attack and a solid defense like the Steelers have, there's a chance they could go far. But without DK Metcalf, I don't see it happening.
No, I agree with that. But I mean, he will be back in the lineup. What are your thoughts on that suspension? Do you think that was fair? We didn't have a show because of high school and holidays, but
I don't know what the fan said to DK to piss him off, but it was probably something racial or maybe attacking his manhood. I really don't know. You just can't hit a fan. Two games seems pretty reasonable. Actually, seems like it's pretty nice considering how DK is in his history. But yeah, 2 games seems fine. It just sucks that we're gonna not have him play in this crucial game. This is winning in, lose and go home. So
one thing is, this is a fan that when he was a Seahawk, he had complained about the security before. I don't know about the racial thing. I feel like if he'd have yelled something that Metcalf could have heard, we'd have heard multiple people around him. And I'm not saying they have. Maybe they have. It goes back to the Myles Garrett thing with Rudolph. I remember the Pittsburgh center saying if Rudolph had said anything like that, I would have beat his ass myself. Garrett wouldn't have had to do it. But no matter what he said, rule 1, don't hit a fan. I mean, period. Don't hit a fan. Doug says, "You ask Ron Artest." Yeah, ask the Indiana Pacers. They lost the championship that year, and Ron Artest at least had a little bit more of a valid reason getting something thrown at him. Metcalf, the dude's just yelling. Just walk away.
Good point about that Pacer team. That 02-03 team, I think, made it to the conference finals, but that 03-04 team started really good. And that brawl, was it Brawl in the Palace? I forgot. Whatever the name was. It was
Malice in the Palace or something?
Malice in the Palace, thank you. That just destroyed their season. I think they finished 500, and they were a first-round exit. So you got to be mature about it. You got to be smart. It's just words. I've heard some really offensive things before I hit puberty. It's just it is what it. No, for real. I mean,
I 100%.
This is like Irving. I grew up in Irving. Irving was nice, but it still wasn't like I wasn't even as a kid. I wasn't an exception to it. So you just got it.
I was gonna say us walking out of the Ranger game, me, you, and my dad going to the truck, and some random dude just screams out the N-word. I don't even know if he was talking to you but I mean, he was very loud and clear. And I mean, man, why didn't you go over and slap him? You'd have only been suspended for 2 games. Speaking of real quick, do you think if the NBA could go back in time, I don't think those are suspensions are as long if they could go back in time.
I think they still would have been, because I think they were trying to set an example.
Good point.
Just saying that this is not going to fly, so we're going to do a very severe punishment and deter this forever. So I think it was excessive, but it was probably the right decision.
No, I can agree with both of those. It was excessive, but it probably needed to be done at that time. Basketball had become so physical. Fighting was a bigger thing. I mean, it wasn't just going into the fans. It was on the floor too. You were getting the stupid, the thugs and all that. Well, no, you're literally playing. At that point, you're still basically 5 years away from being able to play what I call wrestling in basketball. It was still very physical. So yeah, I agree with that. I think it was excessive, but also it was needed. All right, real quick tonight, I guess. The Rams are playing for the 1 seed, right?
No,
that's right.
They're in the playoffs. They'll be on the 5. So the thing that's why I was telling you I wanted the Seahawks and 49ers to play Sunday night and have the Steelers and Ravens play Saturday night, because it's a rematch of what happened last year where Detroit and Minnesota, both 14-2, playing for the NFC North and the number 1 seed on Sunday night to close out the season. Same scenario in 2025, but for the NFC West.
Dude. These playoffs are going to be wonky as hell. Like, yeah. I mean, you got in the AFCs, everybody you want to say, well, okay, Josh Allen, this is your year. Because even if Lamar gets in, he's beat up. Yes, we can talk about Aaron Rodgers, but he is still 47,000-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Do you really trust Bo Nix or Justin Justin Herbert for the Chargers? Yet the Bills just at times this year, I keep forgetting they only have 5 losses. Because when they lose, they look so bad at it. Like, it just makes you think they have struggled way more than they really have this year.
Yeah, when they lose, it looks horrible. They don't. Allen looks mediocre, but when they win, it's Allen scoring 6 touchdowns and looking like Superman. I feel. Wait, no. Mario asked about the Texans on Saturday. No, there's 2 games on Saturday. The Texans, if they had a Saturday game, it's been moved to Sunday. It'll be the Bucks and Panthers at 3:30, and then the Seahawks and 49ers at 7:00.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is still could be their year because you and I had this discussion today. The AFC is flipped upside down. All the traditional good teams of the last 6-7 years, they're at the bottom. Now we have this new version of New England, this team in the Broncos that never looked good in any of their wins except when they play the Cowboys.
But they're 13-3.
Yeah, and then whoever wins the AFC North, either the hamstringless Lamar Jackson-led Ravens or 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. And then you got the Jaguars, who had a really impressive win against the Broncos, but we want to see what happens in the playoffs. They look like one of the strongest teams in the conference, but your 5 seeds, your 5 through 7 are Houston, Buffalo, and the Chargers. Those seem like traditionally the better teams, but I am excited because this is something different. The Chiefs are out. We're going to get a brand new team to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. You have a pick that I don't disagree with.
I'll go ahead and give you my early thing. I'll go ahead and give you right now. I think it's Houston versus the Rams in the Super Bowl.
Rams have been this season the most well-balanced all-around team. You could say there's some teams that have better offenses or defense or special teams, but all around the Rams, they are probably the safest pick to make it to the Super Bowl, even though they're not going to win the division. I also would say Rams and Texans. Now, but I still want the Bills to make. I'm going to go ahead just to be different than you. I'm going to do Rams and Bills.
I want the Bills to make it too. I mean, I want Houston to make it. Either one of them I'd be happy with. Neither one have won one. Of course, the Bills famously went 4 times and lost. Houston's never got past the second round. So I'm rooting. I'm always a big, if it's not, well, not when Philadelphia first won it, screw them. But if you haven't won a Super Bowl, I'm genuinely rooting for you if you're a good team and you get that far. Jacksonville's the same way. I would root for Jacksonville if they made it. New England, I don't think this is fair. Like, I don't know what devil Robert Kraft's getting his massages from now, but this is just not fair that y'all only had to take a 5-year nap and then y'all are back to being a really good team. And now in saying that, I don't think they make it this year. I still think, I just feel like there's a bad game for May about to happen and they won't win, but they are built for not only now, but going forward. And we still got to see what Mike Vrabel can do in the playoffs. One fluke run I have always said, has vaulted his reputation to higher than where it should be. I still contend he might be the Marty Schottenheimer of this era.
History has said that you're correct. The 2019 Titans is who you're talking about that made it to the AFC title game. 2020 was a good year. 2021, they were the number 1 seed, but they lost in the playoffs. In both, well, maybe 20. I can't remember if yeah.
They sacked Joe Burrow 742 times, but he threw all the touchdowns and they still lost. They became the only team. I think it was 9 times. They became the only team in playoff modern history to have that many sacks and lose a game.
Yeah, it was. Well, maybe the Chiefs. Well, I remember that Derek Thomas game where he sacked. Was it DeBerg several times?
That game, though. That was a regular season game.
That was a regular season game. The Titans had some good years, but yeah, we'll see. My problem with the Patriots is the same problem that Doug points out about the Bills. They really don't have proven consistent skill play. They have a lot of young talent, but to me, they don't have a number 1 wide receiver. They just have a bunch of good 2s and 3s, really more 3s and 4s, and some solid tight end play.
Hunter
think
Henry, dude. Hunter Henry is having one hell of a season, like quietly. I know because I've carried him in some of my fantasy. I mean, that dude has just been clutch. And he's always one of those guys that's solid, but especially in the last 6 games, I think he has 4 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in the last 6 games. And I mean, he's just coming up with big play after big play.
hey, that's fine and all, but like, let's see what happens for a full 17 game season. I like Hunter Henry too. I think he's a solid guy. Not a tight end one to me. Like he's a good in a pairing with 2 tight ends. Like he's a more of a 40 catch guy. Uh, it's still my problem with them. Them and the Bills, they have the same issue. The outside talent, they have great quarterbacks that can distribute well, but in these big games, especially going into the divisional round and conference championship and Super Bowl, you need that one. You need that person that when things are rough, you can just throw it to them and they'll make that catch.
All right, so let's go to the New England Patriots, folks. Everybody turn your pages to the New England Patriots. I mean, Hunter Henry has 55 catches, 700 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I think that's more than just a second pairing guy.
I want to, yeah, but let me see if he does that next year when the schedule is going to be tougher. They're going to have some injuries. They've been relatively healthy all season, and they've had the really light schedule too. New coach, money comes in. They have all these free agents. I can see where he had a really good season. I want to see him do it next year.
Dude, I think we've slept on him. 600 yards, 600 yards, 600 yards, 75 catches, 9 touchdowns in 1 year, 7 touchdowns. I think I've kind of underrated his career because I thought when he went from the Chargers to New England, he would take a next step. But I mean, he's been like consistently his career 17 game average per season is 57 receptions, 660 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I did not know he was that good.
I mean, I know he's solid. I'll admit I didn't realize it was those numbers were that good. But,
me neither. And again, a lot of it because for 3 of the last 3 years, it was with bad New England teams.
And he might have been the best option.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as you were talking about on the team for them this year, their leading receiver yards-wise is Stephon Diggs, who has quietly had a solid year and needs 30 yards for 1,000. After that, it's Henry. Then it's Mac Hollins and Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. I mean, they're all solid, but yeah, you're right. What are you going to do when you get into it with a Denver secondary in the playoffs that, Patrick Surtain can just follow Diggs and shut him down? Okay, well, Hunter Henry, you're about to get 11 catches because there's nowhere else to throw the ball.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening for sure. But there's not. What New England has done this season has been great. They far exceeded expectations, but I just don't see them making it past the divisional round. So
Mario says, sorry, he was talking about playoffs because he's right. Houston always gets that 3:30 playoff game. It's going to depend on who they play. I mean, and it's going to depend on if they're on the road or not. I think if they host and it's a 3:30 game, I think that's a logical for Houston, a 3:30 on a Saturday.
Yeah, Houston, I think is still in line for the division, but they need the Titans to go to Jacksonville and beat the Jaguars.
Yes,
I don't see that happening.
Dude, the Colts, man, just 7-1 to what they went through, and it's not because of anything they did wrong. Though you and I both felt they would have came back to the means a little bit, but I think if Daniel Jones is healthy, they don't collapse like this.
I was thinking 11-6 they would finish, and it would still be a successful season. But yeah, they were 7-1. Now they're 8-8 out of the playoffs. I don't know what they do in the offseason. I know they have some talent going back, but what do you do with Daniel Jones? What do you do with that offensive line that was already getting hurt? I don't know. I really feel bad for that team. I really feel bad for the fans.
No, I do too. But the one thing about it with Daniel Jones, this might actually help them going forward with him. Instead of having to make him a $175 million quarterback, you can be like, look, well, first off, we don't know if you're going to be here full next year. It might be week 5, 6, 7, or 8. You just never know. Also, with your injury, you might not ever be the same. So how about you go ahead and sign for security because you've already made a ton of money. 3 years, $60 million. I would sign that if I'm him.
Yeah, because when he's at his best, he's a fantastic quarterback, especially in that Colts system. They need to protect him. I think their biggest offseason need will be that line play. Because you remember that Falcon game that was in overseas? I don't think it was in London, but it was overseas. he was just getting harassed by
Was it
Atlanta.
Germany?
Huh?
Was it Germany?
It might have been. I just can't. I don't think it was London, but
No, it wasn't London. I don't think so either. Or was it Madrid? God, they're playing all over the place now.
yeah. Well, they got to make it global.
I have no
Uh,
problem with that. I'm fine with
yeah, I
that.
don't have a problem with that either. I mean, Atlanta's defensive scheme was not to defend Jonathan Taylor because Taylor had a great game, but it was to get after Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
And it worked, and he was just getting harassed. So I think in the offseason, they really need to focus on developing that offensive line again.
All right, now let's flip over to the NFC. As you can see, we're kind of weaving through the games yesterday. Dallas, good win, fun. My mom was up here, diehard Washington fan. She's one of the funniest fans in the world because she, you and I have always talked about this. You hate the Eagles, but you also will be like, man, that's a really good team. I like the players. You more like just hate the fans. So, typical rivalry stuff. I don't really hate teams. Like I want Dallas to win, but growing up, when I was a kid and you didn't have information all the time and you just got what you could and you read what you could, you'd end up reading about the Eagles. And, you watch them and you kind of get to know the players and stuff. My mama hates Cowboys. I mean, with vitriol. Like she's an Aggie fan, but I don't think she hates the Horns. Like she rooted for the Horns when they went to the national championship game, and won and all that. When they went and then they didn't win, she tends to root for them if they're not playing A&M. With Dallas, she wants Dallas to die in a fire. Like it's fun watching the game with her. Boy, that offensive line started sucking majorly in the second half. That almost lost them the game.
Yeah, you were texting me that I can't believe Washington's about to win this game because Cowboys were dominating, but Washington was closing the gap. Dak had another great game. I'm glad he's actually getting a lot of respect nationwide by a lot of analysts that used to bash him.
I told you it was just 2013. It's the Tony Romo versus Denver game, but it was in one season, not a game. And what we're talking about, if you don't remember, Tony Romo famously outdueled Peyton Manning at times in a classic game that went back and forth. There's like 1,000 yards offense, 12 passing touchdowns, blah, blah, blah. And then Tony Romo threw an interception late that did cost the game. And there were some people going back to that tired trope of Romo is always terrible in big games, and somebody did the actual research. This is when Pro Football Reference was still young, so you had to really go out and figure out stuff. And it turned out actually Tony Romo has some of the best fourth quarter stats of any quarterback, and more people watch that game going, wait a minute, he threw for that many yards and that many touchdowns, and y'all gonna try to blame him? Like, at what point is the defense the problem? And I think that's what finally happened this year, because the last time the defense was terrible was 2020. Dak was doing the same thing, but he got hurt early enough in the season where people kind of forgot about that. And so this year he was healthy for the whole season of a bad defense, yet he still had the great season that he had.
Just think how bad this team would be if he didn't play this season.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that Bronco game we were referring to from 2013. He threw for over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and it's just the one interception that people complained about. I'm like, well, I don't think Tony Romo allowed 51 points to the Broncos.
Yep.
But he was responsible for the 48 points the Cowboys scored. So it's just one of those things, man. I just don't like when people give bad football opinions, and that's just the terrible one.
And there's and I know a lot because it's Facebook, and you see more, again, information overload. I will say this: he started terrible. He didn't throw the ball well at Washington at all, but he put the ball when he needed to. Like at one point, he was 0 for 6, and then he got that hot streak, but he didn't throw the ball well. And I kind of wonder if maybe he's a little banged up, because I noticed the same thing last week. At times, he didn't throw the ball well. And I know, again, one of the biggest tropes, the two biggest tropes about him that annoy me are people that say he's not accurate when he's literally one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. And then they'll say that he doesn't push the ball down the field. He's a check down. And I'm like, have y'all not seen the stats of the Cowboys over the last 5 years? They're one of the most aggressive down the field throwing teams in the NFL. And it's just what you say, though, man. Once somebody gets something in their mind, they're never going to change it. I call it the Noe Andy Dalton effect. You don't remember that, do you? We used to always talk about Andy Dalton, and you one day made the comment about how terrible he is on the road. Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And so I did the research. In fact, this might have been where I found out about Pro Football Reference. And it turned out that in that 10-year window that he had been, or I think at that point, 7 or 6 years, he had actually the most wins of any quarterback on the road. And it was like you said, I always felt like I must have seen all the losses. The same thing with Hunter Henry. I thought this was a career year for him. He's basically having his average year right now.
Yeah, he's just on a better team. With Dalton, it was games where he just went bonkers at home versus road games where they might win, but he wasn't the reason why. It was because of acrobatic catches or the defense. But yeah, I wouldn't say his road record was terrible, but just his performance. I mean, you can go off of fantasy points if you really want to for road versus home, and to me, there was still a stark contrast.
That's a good point. Makes me think of God, who was it? There was one quarterback in the 80s, a backup, and he was like, in his career, he was like 6-1 at home and 1-6 on the road. And I mean, it was like the Dallas offense at times this year. They'd go on the road and they wouldn't look as crisp as they did on the at home. Let's see. Philadelphia. Okay, so tie back into Buffalo. Terrible decision, Buffalo. Now, unless I say that, I guess they don't have anything to play for, though, do they?
Buffalo, I think, still had an outside shot at winning the division.
Oh, I thought New England already clinched it.
I think they clinched it after Buffalo lost.
Okay, then I really think that's a terrible decision. Like, you do not go for 2 at home when you have held a team to just 13 points and you yourself have not scored any until the last 6 minutes of the game. You kick the extra point, you go to overtime. On the road, you do the opposite.
I agree with you, but I think the problem was they went for an extra point in this game after one of their touchdowns and it got blocked. So Philadelphia this season has been pretty good at blocking extra points.
Dude.
So I could see where Sean McDermott was like, well, I'd rather risk it in Josh Allen's hands instead of my special teams, which if that was the reason, I'm not overly mad about.
I think that's a terrible reason. Now, if they had blocked 2 extra points, I mean, they scored one. You're going to get blocked. That happens. You can't assume now, and maybe they did. Maybe he goes to special team coach goes, we can't do anything about it. Like if we, okay, you're right, but you just can't go. Oh, they blocked the last one, which is still a rare event. So I'm going to assume they're going to block the next one. You kick the field goal, man. You kick the field goal again if they had something to play for. I'm looking at the record. Go ahead.
I mean, maybe if Philly found something in Buffalo special teams, especially their point after attempt team, like that's. I don't know. I just feel that makes more sense than them just because they were going into the game. They're 11-4. They still have a chance at the division. But I don't know. I don't mind the call. I would rather put the game in Josh Allen's hands.
I don't know. I feel like I got a funny feeling because of the way everything is shaking down this year. If Buffalo doesn't get to the Super Bowl, I think the seat gets hot again under McDermott. I think he had cooled it, a year and a half ago. A lot of people that article came out about him, and a lot of people thought that he was going to have he was on the hot seat. But last year they had a really good season. And they still lost valiantly and they played well. They didn't have any majors, but this year they're not going to win the division. Now, to be fair, again, I didn't mean to hit that. That hurt.
Well, now, no.
I hadn't done that in a while.
To be fair.
New England's having a historical season and all, but I got a feeling if they don't I think they might have to make the Super Bowl for them not to have a hot seat on him.
Yeah, I could definitely see that because him and John Harbaugh, they both were the teams that were going in, like Ravens and Bills. They were the favorites to come out of the AFC. If neither of them makes it to the Super Bowl or at least the conference championship, the seat will be very warm.
Well, Harbaugh does have the injury thing to fall back on, which is what McDermott fell back on 2 years ago when his seat was getting really hot. And everybody was like, well, yeah, but man, that was that year that they had the #1 defense for like 12 weeks. And then they just proceeded over the last half of the season to lose. It just seemed like 2 defensive starters every game that were out for the year. So I think Harbaugh gets that benefit. I don't think McDermott does this year. You've got Lamar banged up, and again, the Chiefs are out of your way. And for folks that think the Chiefs dynasty is over, Jesus Christ, you are dumb. This is the best thing for them. This is a dynasty pause. And this is where they get to get a higher draft pick and kind of refresh the roster. You start telling some guys like, hey, I appreciate what you did during those championship years, but it's obvious now your days are, are past. And so this is just going to be a reboot for them. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think Kansas City will be back in the Super Bowl contention next season, probably without Travis Kelce, but I think they have some depth there at the tight end position. They need some depth at offensive line outside of Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. They don't really have any other elites offensive linemen. I think that's where you start, and then give Patrick Mahomes some type of weapon, or just a healthy weapon, or someone that won't get suspended. Because Rice is good, but I mean, stay on the field, please.
Well, it's time for Xavier Worthy to take the next step.
Yeah, he's kind of like a spot 2-3 that can extend the field. But he needs to be more consistent.
I mean, when you draft him in the first round, you can't be a spot 2 or 3. I mean, in my opinion, and I mean, he's had a solid year again. He's another note. He has a hard time staying on the field, and that's really is what started to hit the Chiefs lately, the last couple of years. I think they need to figure out a real running back situation. I know Andy's weird about that, but I think Kelce runs it back at least one more time. I think him and Mahomes, I think he'll make the call late because I think he wants to see when Mahomes will be ready. Because I have a funny feeling Mahomes is that type of guy that he will be there week 1. I don't think he'll miss any time next year.
Yeah, I mean, this is his first major injury. He's had some leg issues, especially with his ankle. But he seems to just tough it out and play. I mean, he's Patrick Mahomes. So I would bet my house plays week 1. Yeah, I think he'll be there. He'll be available. And I think they'll be back to being division champs, or at least in the wild card consideration. They're a good team. They have a solid defense. They just need to patch up some areas that are obviously weak.
I think if he is there week 1 and healthy, I think they will have a 14-3 type of year. I think they will roll. I think you'll see what we thought we were going to see this year with the offense kind of refreshed. Rice will be there a full year. I think personally that Kelce comes back one more year, or maybe even they do the whole like, hey, you take 9 weeks before you make a decision. Come back, be here by week 14, 15, like Rob Gronkowski did a couple times. I could see that scenario possibly as well. But yeah, I think they're going to be fine. So in saying all that, if you're Buffalo, with Lamar Jackson wounded, with Jacksonville and Houston looking like the most complete teams, you got to think, because Buffalo can go on the road and win anywhere. I mean, yeah, they'd love to have them come, but I mean, Buffalo's not a team that I think is going, oh, no, we got to go to Jacksonville. It's 75 degrees. It's sunny.
Duval.
Jacksonville people like, hey, he said that with care now. I will admit it. I will raise my hand and say it. And again, I know 1-year wonders and all, but I'll admit, I don't feel this is a 1-year wonder. That dude has rebuilt an environment that 2 years ago was good, then it went really bad, and we all thought they were going to keep taking a step back. Travis at the end was going to be traded. He was a failure. Lawrence is there time to, is it time to cut him, And those two guys have had resurgent seasons. And you want to talk about another team doing it with Jacoby Myers as your number 1 now that Hunter is out. I mean, this playoffs, there's so many teams that just have a bevy of receivers. Maybe that is the future, Noe.
Maybe it is. Yeah, the thing with Jacksonville, they doing it without Brian Thomas being the primary guy. Like you said, Jacoby Myers has been like a big key to their second half success. The guy they got from the Raiders during the midseason trade. I love what Cohen has done with Travis Etienne, their star running back. Instead of trading him, they traded Tank Bigsby. Etienne has had a really good year, and both catching passes and rushing. And Lawrence, I was telling him, I was trying to think of like the top 5 MVP candidates. He's in that list. Him, Christian McCaffrey, Drake May, Matthew Stafford. I think those are the top 4 this season.
I don't see Stafford losing it just because of his age and his reputation. And you also, I mean, even though he's truly a Hall of Famer, but you get this one more MVP, that's the bow on top of the gift. In fact, I think if the Rams win the Super Bowl, I think Stafford calls it a day. He might call it a day either way, but I definitely think if he wins the Super Bowl, he's probably going to call it a day.
Ride out with his teammate Clayton Kershaw from Highland Park.
Oh, that's fitting, actually. That's actually a really good point. And
both in LA, Kershaw ended his career with the Super Bowl or with the World Series. And then, Matthew Stafford might do it this season.
Again, talking about a guy that was on a tortured franchise, put up great stats, but never would have made the Hall of Fame unless he doesn't have that second act like he did with the Rams. It could have happened with the Lions too, I'm saying, but just having that second act and he didn't even have to win the Super Bowl. He did have the stats. Like if you just get to the Super Bowl, you've got the stats. And then he not only did that, but he won it. And he won it with a classic, near game-ending drive and all that. He has nothing else to prove after this year. I really didn't think he was going to come back this year when it was reports about his back being so bad.
Yeah, everybody thought he was going to retire before the season started, and now he's, like you said, it's really him or Drake May or Christian McCaffrey. One of those three is going to win, and probably going to be Stafford. And like you said, it's the cherry on top to a Hall of Fame career. He already has a Super Bowl. Multiple 3,000-yard seasons. I think he gets the award. But I really would like it to go to a running back or another position. That's why I'm throwing in Christian McCaffrey. One, for staying healthy all season. Two, basically carrying the Niners offense the entire season. I know they had a soft schedule, but with all the injuries, especially on the defensive side, losing Bosa and Warner, this was a pretty hard season to navigate for the 49ers, and they are a 1 win away from having the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Dude, Kyle Shanahan went from a seat that was possibly starting to warm up to, I think, cementing as of now one of the top 4 coaches in the league.
Yeah, and back in the day, it was the inconsistency of the team. They would be good one year, bad another year, great another year. Yeah, but now they've been pretty consistently good. Last year, all the injuries. This year, a lot of injuries, but Christian McCaffrey was in there. Purdy was available for most of the season.
Matt Jones stepped in perfectly when he wasn't.
Yeah, which shows that he's a serviceable quarterback in the NFL, maybe a spot starter. I could see him getting some looks from Minnesota because Minnesota, they were my Super Bowl pick because I thought J.J. McCarthy was ready, but he might be the guy. It might take him another year. Mac Jones seems like a guy that could fit right into Kevin O'Connell's system.
Well, and McCarthy's really had one good game. We won't talk about it. I will say the owner of that team, he had one good game. Literally, you could tell had an epiphany in the moment when, in a response to a question, said, "It amazes me that we keep having quarterbacks have the game of their year and then don't play well the rest of the year. Maybe it's us." What do you think about the Brian Flores talk?
I mean, if Minnesota is stupid enough to let Brian Flores go, then he's either going to be a head coach or the Cowboys are going to pay him the most money ever.
I don't think he stays in Minnesota either way because I think.
Why do you say that?
Well, he's a free agent, first off. So let's say he doesn't get a head coaching job. All right. So let's see, you want to get in front of people and you want your name bandied about and you want Chris Collinsworth saying, now here's a coach that his first time as a head coach, he said some honest things that people didn't like that have kind of come true. So I'm just saying, while the Dallas Cowboys defense is also being talked about going, and also this ranked defense 31st last year is now 3rd in the league. That gets him hired as a head coach quicker. If he stays at Minnesota, he's got a great roster and he's got a great head coach. But I think you also get with that's cute. You go to Dallas, you're going to be on national TV 6-7 times. You're getting a head coaching job. And then Dan Quinn, after he gets fired from Washington, can come back to Dallas and Flores can go to Washington. I just called it 2027, folks. That's going to happen in 2027. I'm calling it now.
Defensive coordinator Brian Flores, as a Cowboy defensive coordinator, I'd be very happy with that. I think he has a great mind. But I did think Matt Eberflus had a great mind for the defense, and we see how the Cowboys defense has played this season. Like Jerry Jones said in that conference call, every other quarterback is having a great year against the Cowboys defense. And then,
I blame Jones for that decision. That
I
was a
mean,
Jones hire, and Jones was
I was happy. I was happy
yeah,
with it.
but we didn't realize that there was going to be a scheme issue. We didn't realize that Diggs and well, especially Diggs and Anthony Murray, who again, it blows my mind how terrible of a football player he is after being so at what I thought, and even Mario said it, underrated with his time, especially last year with Tennessee. I mean, dude, there are weekly channels that just spotlight how bad he is. And I am talking about it's like watching a seventh grade linebacker try to play high school football, where it's not only that he doesn't tackle, but he doesn't like he sometimes it feels like he avoids the gap of his responsible gap. It's just blows my. Why is Logan Wilson not playing?
I'm not sure if it was him, but there was a point in the Charger game where a Cowboy defender was at the goal line and the running back or whoever was going toward him, and the guy just stood there. He didn't like go after the running.
That was Murray.
Okay, I I couldn't believe it because I did that in high school, like in a practice, and my coach chewed me out. And I understood. I was like, yeah, I shed a block and I was happy with that. But then the guy was coming right at me. I just stood there
Yeah.
and I just didn't make the tackle. Now that was on me. And I saw it in professional level. I was like, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yep.
That's not
Agreed.
even a scheme issue. That's just basic football. Like, do your job. Get the guys running toward the end zone. Defend your end zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hope if the Cowboys somehow get Brian Flores, there's not a scheme issue there either. And I hope they get some pass rushing help. There's some players on here that I mean, you heard what happened with Trayvon Diggs, why he was on IR.
Yeah. Hanging a TV.
Yeah, hanging a TV. And I'm like, why didn't he just say that? Like, that's not embarrassing. It was an accident. I mean, he has makes enough money where he can afford to have someone do it for him, but that's neither here nor there. I just feel that it's part one is a scheme issue. Part two, I think there's some players that need to go.
Well, I will say this: it wasn't like Diggs was avoiding the question. I mean, there was no like he just wasn't he wasn't doing any kind of press like, and I think part of that that might just be him being I'm on the injured reserve, so I'm not going to go I'm not in the locker room at the same time and stuff. So I will say that it wasn't like he was avoiding. It's just I think this is one of those things where Schottenheimer being a little naive of PR when he said, I'm not going to tell you, I'll let Diggs, like it's something worse than when he was literally just being like, well, it's not my place to say it. Let him tell you, not me.
Technically, I agree with Schottenheimer there, but yeah.
But it's just the way he said it. It made everybody, all of us go, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, something wasn't right or it was really, really embarrassing. And you know what? Maybe for Diggs, it was embarrassing saying that, I just, man, that dude must have like brained himself because he's still playing like a zombie right now. He's terrible. I was in his corner. He's one of my favorite players. You know me. I love defense. I mean, I love I love defense. I love aggressive defense. I love turnovers and sacks. And I'm ready for him to be cut. Let's cut it now. Let's take that post bonus we can get from him and let's move on.
Yeah, it seemed like he's just resting on the laurels of like 2021 and 2022 because he's not the same guy anymore. And it's very sad because I was a big fan of his, seeing his son. He seemed like a good guy, played well, fast, could defend the pass. But now, I mean, he's letting Ladd McConkey out race him to the end zone.
What are you trying to say there?
I'm just saying Ladd McConkey is not that fast.
You saying McConkey the Honky's not that fast?
Well, no, I didn't make it a race thing, sir.
I don't know why that's not his nickname. Like if I had McConkey as my last name, first off, I'd tell everybody I was kin to Phil McConkey, even though they're not, oddly enough, with that name. But I would have tattooed across my back, McConkey the Honky. But so this is why I do this show. I was literally thinking about Trayvon Diggs while I was going up to Walmart to get some last-minute Christmas Eve stuff that Studio Life did. And I was thinking about it, like what has changed? And then it dawned on me. What has changed is teams figured out what routes to throw on him. He has never been able to adjust to that. when he was aggressive and they were throwing, like, look how everybody at that time, because he would get burned just enough. It's Everson Walls. And this, folks, is why Everson Walls is not in the Hall of Fame. He will get in there one day. He's not in the Hall of Fame because as great as he was at intercepting stuff, Everson Walls gave up a ton of yards and touchdowns because he was such a big go for it, make it or break it play. And so with Diggs, that 1 year, everybody would start. It felt like every start of every game was a deep bomb over Diggs, and he'd either intercept it or it would be caught. He never was able to adjust his game once the teams figured out, oh, okay, let's just not test him. Let's throw things in front of him. Let's throw, and all that. The great players adjust once. We always say quarterbacks, once a rookie quarterback gets film on him. They got film on Diggs, and he's never been able to adjust.
That makes a lot of sense. I do see him get beat a lot now. It's probably just the same route that's being run because teams understand how to play or scheme against him.
Yeah. Now, in saying that, if he goes to a team with a good safety and a couple other good secondary guys, he could easily turn back into that when teams are forced to throw the routes that he can cover well. They don't have to right now.
Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, because they need a retooling on defense. That's been the dirty secret this year. Lamar's been hurt and not quite as efficient, but that defense is bad. And it's getting to that where it's an age thing. It's time to recycle some guys. So, yeah, Diggs will go there, win Defensive Player of the Year, and become Diggs Island.
They have two of the best safeties in the NFL. I mean, they got Hamilton. I think they have Malachi Starks, maybe.
Malachi. Sorry.
Okay.
That's Children of the Corn.
Oh, if I told you I never watched it, would you be mad?
No.
No.
That's an early 80s Stephen King movie.
Okay. Well,
it's a good movie. It's good. Don't get me wrong. But it's not, no. That's not a zeitgeist movie like, with The Replacements or Roadhouse. Or it's not a seminal moment in your life.
Yeah, so they have Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks. On one side, Chidobe Awuzie, and the other side, Marlon Humphrey.
Who?
Chidobe Awuzie.
You mean the guy that gets posterized because he's almost good enough to make the play, but never quite can? I heard that about somebody. There was somebody in the NBA they were talking about. I think it was Kofi, that guy used to be on Secret Base. I love watching this stuff. And he was this guy is considered the most posterized guy in the league at that time. So, okay, disclaimer for all you kids. So back in the day, we used to put posters on our wall, and these great sports images would happen, and Michael Jordan created what was called posterized. In football, we call it mossed. You're getting mossed. Back in basketball, it's called posterized. So I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember Jordan saying the reason he's there is because he's good enough defensively to almost make the play, which would make those dunk. That's what makes the dunk special. It's not because you slammed it in the guy's face, is that you slammed it in the guy's face just over his fingers, and he's doing everything right. So that's Chidobe for Dallas, man. How many times did we see that?
Yeah, Awuzie was always right there with the wide receiver, and it was always a contested catch, but the receiver always made the catch.
I remember that joke after the game that you were at the overtime Tip Cooper drive, right?
Yeah, the 2018 Eagle game. Yeah.
So that famously Dallas wins in overtime because the cornerback tipped the ball, and I remember they're in the locker room, and Cooper looks at Chidobe and says that. That would have been you on our team. And Awuzie just was like, yeah. I'm going to be over here in the corner. All right. So anything else you want to talk about current NFL? Oh, okay. Next week. Let's go ahead and predict next week. Man, I want the Panthers to win so bad. But if they do, they are going to get donkey stomped with whoever they play in the first round of the playoffs, because the Panthers are not good. I think the Buccaneers are good. I think you're learning the limitations of putting it all on Baker Mayfield. I think they need to go back to a little bit more of a ball control, letting him have his big moments. But I also think if it was once again Buffalo, who would it be? Probably it's going to be one. It's the top. Who's going to be the top wild card seed
for the NFC?
Yeah, I don't have
it'll be probably the loser of the Seattle-San Francisco game.
Okay, I could see Buccaneers beating either one of those teams. It wouldn't be a shock because it'll be at home. I mean, they will be the division team. Now, if it's the Rams, I don't think they have a chance.
So right now the 49ers are 12-4. The Rams are 11-4. That's
Yeah.
5-6. Rams will probably win tonight, so they'll both be 12-4. And then we'll just see what happens with Seattle and San Francisco next Saturday night.
Yeah.
The winner, that'll be the one. The loser will be the 5, maybe the 6. It'll be an NFC West opponent that has at least 12 wins.
Yep.
So,
hey, so where are you at with the Packers? I mean, it feels like they're kind of still living off that, where they cheated against Dallas. That's all been proven. That all really happened. They were using trash cans. That's how they won. It feels like they've lived off that win almost as much as Mike Vrabel lived off beating the Patriots at home over the last couple of years, where I know last year they technically were better record-wise, but they got beat their first playoff game, and I don't really think they're going to survive their first playoff game this year either.
yeah, but I think they might have a chance, especially because it might be the Bears. I know the Bears are always a tough out, but if they go to Chicago, I think they could win that game. They have not looked good for a while, and this was before Micah Parsons was lost for the season.
Yeah.
Too many injuries at wide receiver. Over reliance on Josh Jacobs, which that's not a bad thing. I just don't think their defense actually. They lost a lineman in one game earlier this season, not Parsons, but another guy.
They lost back-to-back 2/4 of their starting defensive line, which sucks, especially when it's the two guys that are the best of the four. The other two guys are supplementary players.
And when they lost that, I guess that's why John Harbaugh actually ran Derrick Henry as much as he did. Either that, or he realized his job was on the line. But the Packers can't stop the run. That was embarrassing. That they were not this bad, but they played terrible.
So are they becoming the NFC Steelers?
What do you mean? Like record-wise or just postseason?
They're always just good enough to be in the playoffs, but they're not going to win many playoff games unless something changes.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I mean, look, I like Jordan Love perfectly fine, but I mean, inconsistent. Again, I know we can say that about so many different other quarterbacks. There's so many quarterbacks in the league. I think inconsistency is always that's the thing I think I told you before. I realized the difference between a great player and a good player. I know we bring it up all the time. It's the what's his name? The basketball player that says, I'm closer to LeBron than you. I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. That wasn't Brian Cardinal. That's the other white dude. But you know what I'm talking about. We've had this conversation before.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same thing with the difference between a great quarterback and a good quarterback is the great quarterback can be great or really, really good 9 times out of 10, while an average quarterback can be really, really good 5 times out of 10. And then there's 2 times out of 10 where they're just completely terrible. And then there's a couple times where they're average. Baker Mayfield. That's the difference between Baker Mayfield and being a top. Now, you can win a Super Bowl with those guys. You build the team around them. I know everybody talks about the Trent Dilfer thing and everything, and I get it. But Trent Dilfer was not a terrible quarterback. At times he could light the scoreboard up, but then it was inconsistent. So anyway, I just think Matt LaFleur might start getting a little bit hot on the seat, especially when you look at the NFC North and you realize, okay, Lions are not that bad. They took a step back. They're going to be fine, even though that seat's getting hot. I'm telling you, Minnesota still has a great roster if they figure the quarterback out. And holy shit, now the Bears are good. I think the Packers will start getting antsy.
Yeah, everybody's catching up to them in that division. Detroit's good, like you said. Minnesota, now Chicago. They're gonna start being that fourth team, that last place team at some point. I'm thinking what their record is now. I think Minnesota right now is 8-8. Who's the 4th seed in the?
Yeah, as bad as we talk about the Minnesota Vikings this year, I mean, they're still
Minnesota and the Lions are both 8-8, and they're tied for the last spot. So it's been a pretty solid year for the NFC North. It's just so. I mean, the Packers, man, they won't make it past the divisional round, and if they get it to the divisional round, that's exceeding expectations based off of the current roster. Like there's already been issues with Matthew Golden not being able to run block. They want him as more of a complete receiver, but it's year one. Let's see what happens in the offseason. I think he can eventually be that number one receiver.
Oh, yeah, I think he gets there. You've seen some flashes.
Yeah, the Packers, they're go September 1st, they looked like they were going to make it to the Super Bowl. Now we're here at the end of the year, and it looks, I don't know what their future is.
And the crazy thing is if they get eliminated in the first round, they will only be a couple of spots ahead of Dallas. So Dallas will have kind of won the first year of that trade because everybody assumed, okay, well, Dallas, yeah, you might get a number, 10 pick, but you're going to probably get a 27th. Well, now you might get a 14th and a 19th. Hey, A, if you want to trade up, that's perfect numbers right there. Or B, just sit back and draft two of your guys. Yeah, looking at the year, Matthew Golden, let's see, he had 353 yards. No touchdown. He did have a touchdown on the ground. No touchdowns. I think that they gotta. I think sometimes coaches get a little too like, yeah, okay, I want my wide receiver to block, but if he's not the best at blocking, but he can do other things, we can figure the rest out. The only place that a person has to be able to block is a running back. Your running back has to be able to pick up the blitz. You cannot survive in the NFL but you can survive in the NFL. I mean, Alvin Harper didn't block well. Michael Irvin did. So, but anyway, let's see. Anything else current? Okay. Oh yeah. Let's go. Predictions for next week. Panthers, Buccaneers. I've got the Bucs.
I'm going to go with the Panthers. They're the every other week team.
I would love that, except I just feel like they'll get so dog stomped. So they will win, but they'll get so dog stomped in the first round. It'll be like that. There's always one in the first round of the playoffs anyway. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Is this game in? Where's this game at?
It should be in Pittsburgh because I think the Steelers beat the Ravens in Baltimore earlier this season.
Okay.
And it's going to close out the season.
Lamar Jackson saddles up. He plays, but Aaron Rodgers throws for 300 yards, and Calvin Austin has 3 touchdowns. I think the Steelers win, and I think the Steelers become a legitimate dark horse in the AFC.
The big question is, how many carries and yards does Derrick Henry have?
75 and 5. No, Lamar, since Lamar's in my pick, Lamar comes back, they'll forget that they have Derrick Henry. He'll have 4 carries and 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they won't touch the ball for 4 straight drives.
Don't even let Harbaugh on the plane if that happens.
What was the other one? Oh, Seattle, San Francisco. I have Seattle in it. I don't know why. This just feels like one of those where Seattle is going to end up winning by a couple of touchdowns.
I'm still a big DeMarcus Lawrence fan. I wish he was still on the Cowboys, but
the season he's having now.
He's having a great season, just being a complimentary player on a great Seattle defense. I want them to win, but something tells me the 49ers are going to figure it out. It's in San Francisco. It's in Santa Clara. It's a Saturday night game, primetime game for the number 1 seed, for the head coaching of the year award, for the NFC West. I think San Francisco gets it.
Dude, I meant to say this part earlier. I was going to say, if Houston and the Rams make it and they wear their normal uniforms, that would be one of the ugliest Super Bowl games of all time, which then led me to kick myself in the nuts and go, we've got to have ranked the best uniform game in Super Bowl history, 1 through all the way to the end.
Yeah, this was Super Bowl 60. So, yeah, I would definitely love to do that.
Yeah, we're going to do that now. Might even break it up into like 2 or 3 shows. But yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Let's see. What are the other? I think that's really the only like complete like holy crap games. I'm looking at so as of right now, if the season ended today, it doesn't have it. I thought it did. Never mind. It doesn't. Sorry, I thought we were going to have the season ended today. Who was playing who? But I can look over here. So if the season ends with how everybody is now, you'd have the Bears and the Packers, as you said, the Eagles and the Rams, and then whoever wins the 4th would play the Niners.
Yeah, and you're right. As of right now, it's the Panthers because it's tiebreaker. But I could see all road teams winning wild card weekend.
I could too. All right, and then the AFC, if it ended right now, You would have the Patriots playing the Bills. Oh my God.
Not fair.
I want that. I want that. The Jaguars playing the Chargers. And then, see, this is what worries me about Texans. Again, you're going to get the Ravens or you're going to get the Steelers. Two teams that can just find a way to muck it with you, just muck it up. And CJ Stroud's really good in that first round, so that they win their wild card matchup. But yeah, that's and again, I know things possibly could change. We're just going as of now because I don't think the Jaguars lose next week.
If Houston can get out of the wild card round, I could see them being favored against the Broncos, Patriots, or the Jaguars, to be honest with you.
Oh, I think so. I think just on pure what they are, I think it would be, again, when they go up against a Denver defense, then it's going to be which offense can be consistent enough. CJ Stroud has quietly turned his season around, though, folks. That's the one thing everybody keeps acting like, well, how did they win these 5 games? Well, their defense has been good, and CJ Stroud, for the most part, has been good. He still holds the ball too long. He still makes certain mistakes, but I also think he's the guy with that defense, and if that running game can stay solid, I think I think he has a chance to have a nice run. I'd love to see the Texans in the AFC title game, man. I want Houston to do well. I think the franchise needs it at this point.
Yeah, because they were founded or their first season was 2002, so this is year 24, and they haven't got past the division round. I know as a Cowboy fan, I sound very hypocritical saying this.
You don't, because we can at least say we've got 5 rings.
Yeah, but we've been in the NFL much longer than the Texans.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against the Texans either. I know there's a lot of hate from Houston to the DFW area. I don't know why, but I want the Texans to go all the way. I don't have any issues with the team. I have issues with some of their recent uniforms because they don't look good. But as far as the team in general, I would love to see CJ Stroud in the Super Bowl. I would love to see that great defense perform and outclass a lot of great offenses in the NFC.
All right, so that's basically going to do it for the current part of the show. Now, what we are about to do is record our Thanksgiving, Christmas, holiday football show. God, I feel like we've talked Thanksgiving football so many times now. But I do love talking Thanksgiving football, so it doesn't really bother me. That's my favorite football, as we'll say earlier. But anyway, so that's going to be, if you'd like to stay and watch, we'd love for you to. You can still ask questions and everything. But we are about to record our history of holiday football in the NFL. I won't be putting up the videos we're referencing right now. That's what I will do in post. We won't do a true open because I do all that in post. All that's done beforehand. So I am going to say, let me see what we have here. Let's take a commercial break real quick. And then if you need to go potty or anything like that, Noe, if you need to go get a snack, it's okay. I got my Snickers bar right here. If you'd like, would you like some Snickers? You want some Snickers? Okay.
Go to break.
Okay, we'll be right back. It's football season, and that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas, and that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders, All right. What? Can you hear me?
Oh wow,
Oh.
you did the thing.
No, my penis is in my pants.
Oh boy.
All right. Everybody stayed almost. So, hey, folks, we're back. Again,
How
this
many
is
people we have today?
we right now have 9,182.
Hey,
So, if you just joined us late and you don't know, we've already done the current NFL talk. That will be up. These live shows stay up on YouTube. And then we're now about to, as I take a bite of Snickers, we're about to do our holiday show brought to you by Kroger's. There'll be an ad for that at the beginning. We'll just start with our show. And again, I'm not showing any of the video that we're talking about right now, but it will be in the final video because I'm going to take this and just cut it out and make it its own show. All right, hang on. All right.
no, we're gonna old school it. We're gonna describe what we're talking about, and then
Yeah,
you
see?
just paint a picture in your head and get an idea, or do a Google search. Whatever.
So what was that? Holiday notes.
Yeah, it's holiday because I don't want to offend you, Terry.
Happy Shanka. I recently learned that Hanukkah is considered a minor Jewish religious event. Like it's become bigger in the modern times because of its ties with Christmas and Christmas people giving Jewish people gifts and things like that. But like it's not considered one of their big. This is a big, holiday. This isn't their Christmas, so to speak. Never knew that.
Oh, I didn't know that either. I know it lasts 7, 8 days.
Yeah, I think it's 7 days of gifts or 8 days of gifts. I don't know. Where's your? Okay, here we go. Look back. Holiday games. All right. So we'll start. We'll just go in order. Thanksgiving. I will bring a reference up on Halloween, and I don't even know if it was actually Thanksgiving. The only reason I brought up the Halloween when we were having this conversation off the air was I can remember one of the Monday night footballs during the Darren Deerdorf, the golden era for me as a kid. I know other people, it's Don Meredith and how because I get that, but I was too young for that. I mean, I remember it, but not much. For me, it was it was Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Deerdorf. And I just remember everybody was wearing masks and stuff in the stands. And I know it was around Halloween. I just can't remember if it was actually Halloween. If I can find that video, I'll post it in the beginning. But all right, here we go. We're just going to jump right into it, folks. Again, no true open, no true intro. We do appreciate you listening and watching. I thought literally when I said, okay, that's the regular show, like it would drop down to like 10 people. So, hey, here we go. 3, 2. All right, intern Noe the Pro. Let me move this. As the intro talked about, holiday football, I have been very open and honest about holiday football is my favorite. Thanksgiving football is my favorite. Thanksgiving week is my favorite week of football. With high school and all the playoffs, that's the third round. That's the halfway point. That's a mythical thing that teams root for. And then the Cowboys always playing on Thursday. Now A&M and Longhorns back on Thanksgiving week. I do miss when it was Thanksgiving night, but they'll never do that again because of the NFL. And now we have Christmas football, New Year's football, just all types of football. Tell me, what are your views on holiday football?
I love it because usually people are off on the holidays, so you could spend time with family, eat good, and then once you're nice and full, wear your stretchy pants, sit on the couch, watch some football. Hopefully, it's not going to be terrible.
So your view is like with Christmas football. I know a lot of people are, well, they don't need to play. Now, I will say this. I don't think a team like Dallas or Detroit or whoever plays on Thanksgiving should also have to play on Christmas Day. I think there needs to be, Dallas and them will always be Thanksgiving. Make Christmas be everybody else. I get that. But why do people complain about the NFL on Christmas, but then they look forward to NBA Christmas? Like, to me, that's weird. I've never understood the NBA Christmas thing. I know that's a big thing, though, with NBA fans.
I mean, it's a big thing because it's early. You get to see some key matchups you wanted to see, and also it's a day where NBA that's to me is good money. I mean, prime. People are going to be home, seeing family. They're going to have the TV on, watch some type of sport. Basketball was king for a while on Christmas Day. Now the NFL is imposing their will on that day, and NBA is fighting back, and they don't like that at all. And I understand it business wise. I understand that. But I mean, for the NBA, they don't have another day where they actually do something like this. So I can understand why Christmas is their thing.
I'm trying to see when it became big. I know they've always had an NBA Christmas game. Like that was one of the first things, but like and maybe just again, and I was a big basketball fan growing up, but I also admit basketball season to me, I really started focusing in January once football back then when football ended before the new year or right at the new year. I would watch football, and then when that was over, I would then transition into basketball, just like you're transitioning. Good luck with that, Noah. We hope it works out for you. But I'm trying to see when it got really, really big. Because I don't remember as a kid or as a teenager Christmas Day NBA being a big thing.
I kind of do as a teenager because I remember the Bulls would have some marquee matchups
That's
on
that's
on
probably
ABC.
yeah, that's probably when it really got into. Again, they've always been doing it. I just don't remember you stopping down. And in the '90s, I was really big into basketball. Like the late '90s was a big basketball period between '94. Well, I mean, in my childhood too, but it really like I've told you before, my roommate at college, he played college basketball, and so he was a big basketball guy, and so that was there was a few years where I got really into it, and I think maybe that's when I really started locking in on it. But anyway, so holiday football, let's start with the traditional. So I'm wearing this, and then I can bust to this, and bust to this, and bust to this, and then this is just again confused like Noe's gender. All right. So, do you want to give a general history of Thanksgiving there, intern Noe the Pro?
I guess so.
Hang on. Yeah, we're gonna do this again, folks. You're getting to get some live production stuff here. I'm gonna have an AI voice the thing you wrote for general history. I think that'll be funny with stock footage of like we'll do it where it's stock footage like of the Thanksgiving we all think of. And then how it really was. Transpose that. Anyway, all right, we're going back to us. Hang on. All right, so thank you, Mr. AI Voice, for the history of Thanksgiving, the warts and all. In the NFL, it basically started in 1920. I love that. This is the other thing. Everybody gripes now about, well, you should be back for, football or holidays should be about holidays. They legitimately admit back then, oh, man, we put football on Thanksgiving because there was nothing else to do. Like, God, we didn't want to just sit and hang out with our families all the time. We wanted to do something. So Thanksgiving football became a thing.
Yeah, I mean, like most of the day is spent working and 12-hour, 13-hour shifts, and you want to go home, and then now you have the time to stay with your family. You really don't talk to them, so got to do something, hang out with the guys, I guess. Just be outside. The weather's good enough to play some scrimmage football, and go inside to eat, and then go right back out.
Now, I think, of course, we all understand that what we think of as Thanksgiving football, really began in 70. I know there was before, but you got to take out the 2 years that they did it with St. Louis, and we'll get to that here in a minute. I think what we all think of as Thanksgiving football really finalized itself in 2006 when you added the third team. But 1978, when the NFL finally said, all right, Detroit and Dallas, you're hosting every Thanksgiving game, till y'all say no. I think that's the Thanksgiving football we all think of now.
Yeah, since '78, that's the modern one where it's Detroit in the morning, Dallas in the afternoon. Before that, it was different. I know Dallas wanted to get into a Thanksgiving game in the mid '60s. They did, and then for some reason, the NFL commissioner, I think it was the NFL commissioner Rozelle, he wanted the St. Louis Cardinals to play in the game from '75 to '77. They were getting a lot of love from some NFL fans just because they were, the cardiac Cardinals. They were winning a lot of close games, wild games, and they had a pretty good run in the '70s where they were one of the top teams in the NFL.
Well, and again, you have to remember, I mean, before '77, the Cowboys were still the Cowboys. They'd won a Super Bowl. They went to two others. They had rebuilt their team on the fly, but it's really that '78 year where that myth begins of the Cowboys, that whole era and aura of the Dallas Cowboys. And so I don't think that they understood that yet in '75. And also, I don't think it was meant that he wanted the Cardinals selectively. I think if I remember correctly, the Cardinal. Okay, so we got to go back. You brought up a point that I don't think a lot of people realize. Dallas basically, so back in the NFL in the '60s, you got your schedule and you got the week that you'd play the team. And then you got to say, because this is before Monday night. So the Cowboys just said, hey, we want to do this one on Thanksgiving. We're playing this on Thanksgiving. It's not like that now. And it hasn't been like that since when the leagues merged. Once they merged, the league took over scheduling. But St. Louis was asking for the Thanksgiving game. They wanted the Thanksgiving game. They felt that they would get great numbers. And again, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what the Dallas Cowboys had done. I don't know how Detroit got thrown into it. I think maybe they just because they were the first ones all the way back, and they consistently had Thanksgiving games off and on through the 50s and 60s. But to me, it's the best decision they made. And I'm not saying that as a Cowboy fan. I'm saying that as a fan of the NFL.
Well, Terry, if you must know, the first owner of the Lions, George Richards, started the tradition of Thanksgiving Day as a gimmick to get people to actually go to the game. Just to get interest, to get for money.
There's a part two to that too.
There's a part two.
Yeah, on the radio stations, and he wanted those to be broadcast.
Yes.
He doubled his advertising. We actually learned about him in radio television. He doubled his advertising because, as he told the advertisers, you're getting a captive audience of the one time of the year. Because, again, Christmas Day was off limits at this time. The one time of the year, everybody's going to be home, but they're not doing anything. Because, like you said, Thanksgiving, especially back then, folks, we got to remember, Thanksgiving is still more of a modern thing in the United States. This isn't something that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. I can remember talking to people that are like my parents' age that they're like, well, we didn't really, yeah, we had Thanksgiving, but we didn't do turkey and all that. It was just, hey, it's a day off. We don't have to do anything. So you're just sitting at home. So anyway, thank you. See, that's what's called, I set you up and you hit it out of the park.
Yeah, Thanksgiving has been celebrated nationally on and off since 1789. So literally, really after the U.S. became an actual country, like we started to celebrate, but it wasn't always consistent until the late 1800s. So,
well, and as our AI said, it didn't become a actual. I'm trying to. Where does that go? I thought we had that on the notes.
Yeah, it's the first page, general history.
Well, no, I'm reading it. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So basically, Ulysses S. Grant wrote it should be a holiday. Kind of, I guess, like what Trump does. He just wrote it on paper, and everybody's like, okay, sure, whatever. And it kind of was, and it kind of wasn't. But then Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he officially made what you would call Thanksgiving. And it's funny, too, because it was a big controversy back then. You realize now all the cultural wars we have now, we had them back then. It was just for different things. But anyway, so back to the NFL and back to Detroit. So Detroit and Dallas, those are the two that became the prime lockdown. I think adding that third game in 2006 was smart. I think that should have been done earlier, because mainly what a lot of people forget is, because it was Detroit and Dallas, the NFC was in every Thanksgiving game, no matter what. And for some reason, though, they never allowed it to be against two AFC teams. It would always usually be Detroit versus a division rival, and then Dallas versus an AFC team. And then the next year, Detroit versus an AFC team, and then Dallas versus an NFC East rival. I don't know why they just never made it where it was just, Detroit versus AFC, Dallas versus AFC. And I think that 2006 has allowed them to show more AFC teams on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and it kind of diversifies the matchups. Now Detroit could have a divisional matchup, and the Dallas Cowboys can have a divisional matchup in the same season, and it's okay because the night game is probably going to be two AFC teams.
Yep, and I think the 06 AFC and NFC has smartly tried to kind of make their game always be a divisional matchup.
Which I like, because you throw, like we said on the regular show earlier today, you throw logic out the window. Division rivalries can go either way. It doesn't really matter. So I like that a lot.
Well, and for a couple of years, it was Atlanta and New Orleans. And I really wish if they were ever to solidify a third, that's always the game, because that's one of those underrated rivalries in the league. To me, it's easy to be great rivals when you have great teams because you're in great moments. Games decide something. Give me a great rivalry between two programs or franchises that are historically bad, because that means it really means something, because those fans, just like Cleveland, 4-12, you go look at them when they stopped that last stand and tell me if you just saw the video of the fans, you just said, damn, Cleveland finally won the Super Bowl. That was the best day of the year for them. So I liked it when it was Atlanta and New Orleans on that night game.
Yeah, because it was Matt Ryan versus Drew Brees, teams are relatively both good, or chasing a wild card spot in the playoffs. So it was typically going to be a pretty close game, which, as a fan, especially not a fan of either team, just a fan of football, you want.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Dallas. Once again, they took over full-time in 78, but as you'd mentioned, they had actually wanted a game and scheduled a Thanksgiving game in the 60s. It actually worked really good. Texas being that perfect weather in Thanksgiving where even it's cold, it's not necessarily snowing. Dallas and Texas being football frenzy, it was perfect. And again, I don't understand why people act like, oh, well, you can't do a game at Christmas because of family. Well, that's the perfect time. You just throw the game on in the back. Like the game's just on in the background. Same thing at Thanksgiving. I didn't watch every Detroit game like snap to snap in Thanksgiving, but it's always on. Like that's the one game. Even when I'm over at the studio wife's house, I'll just put it on my phone and just have it there, and I'm watching, and then I'm doing other things, and I'm watching. That to me is the perfect type of holiday stuff to have.
Yeah, I agree. It's music in the background, so to speak, and instead of having actual music, you can have the game playing, and you can converse with your family. But then also, with another eye, just look at the TV, seeing what's going on, because there's always going to be something. Even historically, I guess a lot of the Detroit games haven't been that great, but there's been bits and pieces here and there through history where they've been pretty solid games.
All right, go ahead.
I think you're about to say what I was about to say.
All right, let's get into the best games.
Yes, sir.
All right, we will start with Dallas just because we're Dallas fans. Now, is this an updated record?
Add one more win.
All right, so Dallas in their Thanksgiving games are now 34, 22, and 1. This and it's funny to know because that's kind of what's the first game with the San Francisco, that budding rivalry was going to start, but we'll talk about that here in a second. That record had gotten really bad for a while. Over the last few years, I think they've won now 4 out of 5 or something like that. The Raider loss being the only one they haven't won in the last few years. There for a while, though, they were losing a lot. At one time, the reason people were bitching was Dallas had such a great Thanksgiving record. Everybody said it was unfair to them. I mean, it might just have been because those teams were great, folks. But anyway, so top 5 Dallas games in Thanksgiving history. I guess technically you could add this one, this year. It was a really good game. Kansas City was still considered the Kansas City Chiefs. I think everybody thought, okay, Dallas had been on a nice run. They had just beat Philadelphia. Again, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year that they would beat Philadelphia and Kansas City in those back-to-back weeks, I'd been like, we're hosting a playoff game. Nope. But it doesn't fit in the top 5. So give me one of your top 5 Dallas game moments.
For me, top 5, from what I've watched, I would say this is the kiss the screen game for me. This is the 95 game, 30 years. Right now we're recording in 2025. This happened in the 95 season. Last year, the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. Both teams were hot going in. Chiefs were 10-1. Cowboys were 9-2. Dallas ends up winning 24-12. I thought they were by far the better team for the entire 60-minute period. The Chiefs kind of climbed back a little bit, but Dallas pulled it out. The kiss the screen is when Michael Irvin made that great juggling catch in the end zone for a touchdown. I literally just kissed the screen. As a little 11-year-old kid, I was just so happy with, that was his best season.
Mm-hmm.
And as free agency and the salary cap kind of dwindled that great Cowboys team, the triplets were still reliable. They were still in their late 20s. They were still old enough to be influential in the outcome of a game. And they're really relying on Smith and Irvin, especially in 95. And Irvin really came through. I think he had 11 straight 100-yard games in 95. And he was the reason why we won a lot of the games in that season.
All right. Edit point at 149. So I'm going to put up, as I show that, I need you to do this for me tonight. I mean, it don't have to be tonight, before I start recording tomorrow. I want you to take video of you kissing your phone. Because I'm going to show the catch, the tip, and then show your lips coming up against it as you talk about it, okay?
Okay.
So 1 hour and 49. Wave my arms. I do this, folks, so I can see it when I'm fast forwarding the video. I see when I do this, I'm either going, don't shoot, Noe, or it's an edit point. So, all right, here we go. Yeah, I love that one too. That's one of my favorite games as well. Just like you, I thought Dallas outplayed Kansas City, but it showed how good Kansas City was because they were the one team that in that second half, and also you got to remember what happened over the next 3 weeks after this. The Dallas offense, that was probably the best they played the rest of the year. Even in the playoffs, that was probably the best full game they had. But Kansas City did a really good job in that second half of stopping third downs and getting Dallas off the field. Because, again, what people don't understand, and when people bring up the Aikman numbers, I have to remind them the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s ran more, but they threw to run. You said it best today. We were just offhanded. I don't even know if it was on the show or just me and you talking. There will be many weeks, like many weeks, where Aikman would go in at half, 8 of 12, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then the rest of the game, he'd be 5 of 6 for 60 yards because then Emmitt Smith would then have 26 carries, 21 of them being in the first half. I mean,
and a lot of the second half throws by Aikman were probably to Novacek because it was a 3rd and 3 situation and they didn't feel like running the ball in that play.
Yep.
So that it was just a different offense. It was a very simple offense, but if you have elite talent back in the 90s, you could execute a simple offense and be very effective.
All right, so now I have to give this is a personal one. It's not on the list. For those that don't know, this is the third time we've basically talked Thanksgiving. So we've gotten real good at that. But mine is 1983. I get to go to Thanksgiving game to watch the Dallas Cowboys play the St. Louis Cardinals. I have seen the Cardinals in all 3 iterations. I've seen them as St. Louis, as Phoenix, and as Arizona. How crazy is that? But I got to go to that game. 1983 was the last true, what you call great year of the Dallas Cowboys. We didn't know that when the Rams upset them in the playoffs, that then 2 years later, the Rams would do it again in the exact same way. And that's when you realize the flex defense was dead. That's a conversation for another day. But this Dallas team was unique because they always gave up the lead. I want to say they at the time, they broke the record of most wins when being behind in the game. Now, in saying that, we're not talking these were all cardiac kids. It was just St. Louis scored first. They scored on a Roy Green 70-yard touchdown, makes it 7-0, and then Dallas boat raced them. That's usually how it worked, but it was still just a weird phenomenon. And that Dallas defense, that was starting the beginning of Thurman's Thieves, where they made big plays and they gave up big plays. And just as a kid, I was 5? 7, 8. I was 8. Jeez, my adding sucks. I was 8 years old, so I remember that. Like I remember the moment. I remember the moment watching because we were up in the end zone in the high rises, pretty close to the top end of the thing. And I remember Roy Green catching the ball and going right towards our end zone, and he scores. I remember Tony Dorsett had like a 50-yard touchdown run. But the funnier thing is, do you know who performed at Thanksgiving that game? The Temple High School Band.
Okay.
That was way before what we have now, a 30-minute we're talking, that didn't even happen in 95, I don't think.
Yeah, I can't think of who performed in 95, but it wasn't like who performed? It was the Grapevine guy this year.
Oh, Post Malone?
Post Malone. Yeah, Post Malone.
Where's wrong, girl?
It's just becoming more of a scene, and it's a good way for these artists to get recognized because everybody's gonna be watching the halftime show. It's just like the Super Bowl. If you don't like the football, you wait for the halftime because you can see a performer you like. So it's just a good way to be on the platform, like get exposure.
Oh, hey, real quick, outside of this, my dad asked, what do you think about so many sports going to streaming? It was inevitable. Eventually, the NFL will get rid of the rule. A lot of people don't realize the rule is if the game is on cable or streaming, it also must be on a local station free, like Fox 4. Eventually, I think they get rid of that as well.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of having to switch to Amazon Prime for Thursday night, Peacock for Sunday night, ABC, ESPN for Monday night. And
it's always been the same way. It just wasn't on a grid. I mean, it's literally that's what you used to do on Thursday.
But going from app to app instead of channel to channel is just a little bit more cumbersome, especially.
I see that.
But for no offense to your dad, but someone like your dad's age, that's just like flipping channels was a new concept, and that's like, okay, now it's easy, but now you're going from channel to channel to app to app. So you have to exit out one app, go to another app, make sure you have been on that app for a while. Otherwise, they're gonna make you re-log in. Heaven forbid you gotta like type in the like, username and password. So
That's
it's
the
just
new thing, dude. That'll be the new thing. So right now on TV, you still have live TV, and it's usually like very specific channels, like Twilight Zone channel, blah 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 channel. The next great TV invention, if it's not, y'all listen to me. Make a grid so where it shows all the sports being played. So click here to watch Dallas versus St. Louis. You click it and it goes directly into that app, into that. You don't have to go to the app, then hit again. That way it would solve it right there. It would be just like rewatching it on cable TV.
oh, well, we have to wait for a third party to figure that one out. And then also
Okay.
make deals with all these. Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't have to make deals with them. I mean, they're just you as a TV, that would be one of your menu options. Instead of go to Hulu and find a show, go to the show page, click that link, and it takes you directly to it. You know, I mean, you wouldn't have to have permission from anybody on that. That's just how TVs could do it. But anyway, all right, now step back into the Thanksgiving. Where were we? Okay, 83. Go to your next one.
All right, my next one, unfortunately, will be the 93 one. That 93 is a special year for me. That was the first year I started watching sports. I learned about sports. You know, I think it was a good year in sports, too. I mean, I loved watching the Blue Jays and Phillies play in the World Series that year. A series that ended with a home run, which is the second time that's ever happened. Still today, still only the second time that's ever happened. Basketball, the Bulls were finishing off the first part of their dynasty. Hockey, the Kings played in the Stanley Cup, and those are two of my favorite jerseys. And I love that the Kings brought back the black and white. But in football, probably if Emmitt Smith had played the entire season, the Cowboys could have been undefeated.
I think so.
The only games they lost is where Emmitt Smith didn't start and finish a game. They were 12-4. First two games, as we all know, he was in a contract dispute, so he didn't play. And then two games later in the season, they lost back-to-back. This is one of them. Miami beats Dallas 16-14 on a snowy day in the DFW area, a very rare occurrence on
Well, more
Thanksgiving.
icy than snow.
Around where I was at, it was more snow. But yeah, typically in the DFW, it's going to be more icy.
I just remember on TV it was just sleet. That, of course, is the famous Lincoln Coleman game. It's amazing to think a team that had just won a Super Bowl, a team headed to the next Super Bowl, would have to get a guy that had played arena football in Home Depot to be the running back. But that was Jimmy Johnson had a weird thing about not having, and this is, 93 was the first salary cap. Was it 94? 93 was the first salary cap.
93, I think, was the first season because that was the year Reggie White went to the.
Yeah, the Packers. That's right. And then you had, they had drafted Derek Lassick, who got in a lot of trouble too, didn't he? I think he went to like long-term jail. But anyway, he's a guy that if you'd have put him on any other team, he'd have had a good, solid 8-year career as a running back. But because he was on Dallas and who he replaced, he never did anything. Yet they had no third running back. And so when Smith got hurt against the Atlanta game the week before, Atlanta beat them. And then he couldn't play an ice game and Lassick was hurt. They signed Lincoln Coleman. And Lincoln Coleman, I mean, you want to talk about it was the perfect thing for a guy like him because he was not fast. He was just an old school, big, hard to tackle back. And then you put him on ice where nobody has good footing. I mean, it was a perfect recipe for him.
Yeah, and it was neither offense did well. I mean, this was the season Dan Marino got hurt and it was out for the year, and he was on his way to an MVP season. The first 4 or 5 games of the year, he looked like the best quarterback, and him and Randall Cunningham looked like the best quarterbacks in football, and they both got hurt around the same time. So it was gonna be an ugly game, and it ended up being one. Neither offense could really muster much. The weather was bad, but these are still really two solid teams. The Cowboys, I think, went in 7-3. The Dolphins went in 8-2. So these were two of the top at the time top teams in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, you were getting this is a possible Super Bowl. Miami was 9-2 at the time. This is a possible Super Bowl showdown preview, all that kind of fun stuff. And what I think a lot of people forget is Dallas dominated for most of that game. I mean, they were up 14-7 at half. Miami got a field goal in the third, but you still never really felt like Dallas was going to lose the game. And then all of a sudden, Miami puts together a great drive, puts themselves into field goal position. And, of course, as we're showing it now on the video, it's blocked. And Leon Lett did a Leon Lett thing and for some reason tried to touch the ball, and it gave Miami another chance. And Pete Stoyanovich did not miss that second chance.
Yeah. So the rule at the time was if the ball was blocked, it's still live. I think that was the rule. As long as it was moving, it was still live. Once it stops moving, the play's dead. Maybe Lett thought that he needs to recover the ball because if the Dolphins recover, then I don't know.
The rule is if it's behind the line, if it's blocked and it's behind the line of scrimmage, it's a live ball. Either team can advance. If the ball passes the line of scrimmage, same thing with a punt. If the ball passes the line of scrimmage, then the punting team cannot advance the ball or get the ball back unless the opposing team touches it and they lose it. That's why, it's everybody's Peter. That's usually the term everybody uses. Different teams use different ones. It's just don't touch the ball. And I'm like you. I think Leon Lett got it confused and was thinking, well, if I don't grab the ball, Miami could, grab the ball and score a touchdown.
Yeah, I get it, but it's one of those things where he just needs to learn the rules because that's a 13-3 Cowboys team. Didn't really have. I mean, it ended up working out for the Cowboys because after this loss, they never lost another game that season. For the Dolphins, unfortunately, they never won another game after this, and they ended up missing the playoffs with a 9-7 record. But just because it worked out doesn't mean it still sucked. It sucked a lot in the moment. I remember walking outside in the cold just to get over that loss because I was like, oh man, they're not going to make the playoffs now. They can't even win this game.
I thought that the week before. I thought I could.
I guess Atlanta
did. Atlanta with Dallas was weird. Dallas beat them 9 times out of 10. But there's 2 or 3 games where Atlanta blitzed, Dallas couldn't figure it out. And I remember Emmett got hurt, and it was a very lackluster game. And I remember thinking, wow, they're going to.
I don't think Aikman played that one either.
Well, did he play the ice one?
He played the ice one, but I don't think he played the
I don't think he started the Atlanta. Emmett started it and then got hurt. But yeah, I just remember thinking, man, this team ain't going to do it. But here's a funny thing, just 93 reference. In 1993, the Dallas Cowboys went 0-2 and then went on a 7-game winning streak. Then they went 0-2 and went on an 8-game winning streak. So 15 of their wins were in consecutive. I love stats like that. That's crazy.
A streaky team.
A streaky team, to say the least. All right, I want to go to the next year, the 1994 Thanksgiving Day game. And people ask, well, why isn't there more from the earlies? There's a couple, but honestly, there for a while, either Dallas was bad or Dallas kind of got fodder for Thanksgiving. Like I remember Seattle, man. One of my youngest memories is I want to make sure I get the year right. I think it's 1980. They just donkey stomped. I mean, it was like 60-0 or something like that. I mean, it was that bad. And so for a long time, it wasn't like, I don't know why I didn't feel like Dallas ever got like the tough games on that. 51-7. It was 51-7. Sorry, I overrated the donkey stomping. The weird thing is about this game is, again, I remember it because it's one of those early childhood memories. They score 51 points, but it wasn't like Danny White only threw for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Tony Dorsett only ran for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was that defense. They had 6 sacks. They had 3 turnovers. They had 4 fumble recoveries, 6 fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries. And Dallas just basically had short fields the whole game. The whole game they had short fields. And so it was like the most unimpressive 51-7 game. You know what I'm saying? You'll see a blowout where it's like big play and, Josh Allen has 605 yards. It wasn't like that. But anyway, So there was a weird stretch there in the 80s where Dallas just didn't really have any really what you'd call impactful Thanksgiving games. 94 was an impactful Thanksgiving game. Not only was it the best, the Cowboys were at the apex of their dynasty, they're playing Green Bay, a team that's about to be at the beginning of their dynasty. This game at the time meant something seeding wise. I mean, all this was in play. And then, Troy Aikman's not going to be able to play. And, Rodney Peete got hurt the week before. This is 3 weeks after Eric Williams had destroyed his knee in a car wreck. And then Jason Garrett said, "Hey guys, I got this." Now, you and I have had this discussion before. We actually had it. We actually recorded this one. The second time we recorded this was earlier this year. I had to make you watch the throws because I, just like you, always had it in my mind from that game that Jason Garrett basically just threw up balloons and let the receivers go under it. And he did a couple times. But I will give the dude credit. He dropped some dimes in key moments in that game. He really did help them win the game more than I remembered.
Now, the one I remember is the one to Alvin Harper where he was like 10 yards away from his defender. He just blew by him. Garrett still just threw a moon ball, but I mean, it was still a perfectly thrown moon ball. Just Alvin Harper was far ahead from his defender. So it was just funny that he was, because going to halftime, it was 17-6. The Packers were in control. And then all of a sudden the second half happened and then the game was over after that.
All right, so let's go to an old one. I think this is, if you were to rank, I still think this one ranks as the number one Thanksgiving moment. And it's funny because, again, this is where I talk about we get all caught up in championships and stuff, and this moment happened in what was a down season for the Cowboys. Of course, we all know, once again, starting quarterback hurt. Roger Staubach is out, and then Abilene Christian Wildcat quarterback Clint Longley. I'm going to show some video right here of him. He's just a goofy-looking dude. Anyway, he had a cannon of an arm, and even though they were down 16-3, he comes in, has 2 big touchdowns to Drew Pearson, a couple of key third down throws that kind of get lost in it, and they beat Washington 24-23.
Yeah, it was a miracle of a game because Washington in the 70s was really competitive. They had the older players because their head coach George Allen loved older players, kind of like John Gruden with the Raiders back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, the Washington, they were up by a couple of scores, and then Longley directs a couple of big drives. Was this the game where he threw a deep pass to Pearson for the win?
Yeah.
Okay, because as we're recording today, yesterday was the 50-year anniversary of the Hail Mary catch against the Vikings in the divisional round in 75. So the game we're talking about now is 74 Thanksgiving. And in that Hail Mary game, I think famously Pearson told Roger Staubach something about throw it deep like Longley did in the Thanksgiving game. And as if you know any history about Roger Staubach and Clint Longley, they were not BFFs. Let's just put it like
well, yeah, I mean, famously, Clint Longley sucker punched Roger Staubach, and I've never even heard like the reason. Like everybody that talks about it was like, there was at that time there was no known animosity. It just he literally just walks up and blindsides Roger Staubach. He to this day has never talked about it. And Drew Pearson being what I think is underratedly one of the best agitators in the world. Just go look at what he did. He literally started have your team in your rival city or at your home city talk crap about your rival. You see that now every draft. That started with Drew Pearson. He's the first one that went at the Eagles and with the 5-time Super Bowl champion Cowboys draft. But anyway, so yeah, he was basically wanting to get Roger a little bit more fired up. So he basically said, yeah, I think it was, can't you just throw it deep like Longley can or something, kind of a ribbing effect. Hey, it worked.
Yeah, the ends justify the means.
There you go. And then you have this on the list, which I have no problem with. Dallas 24, San Francisco 24. Again, it was a tie. In fact, it's funny that we record this because this is the last time the Cowboys had a tie until this year against the Packers. But it also was the very beginning, budding Dallas San Francisco rivalry that really would present itself over the next couple years. In fact, if you look here or here, I don't know where they put them. I will link to the top 5 rivals of the Cowboys, San Francisco being one of them. And so that's some of the top 5 Dallas game records. Now there's the moments. And what these are a little bit of the same but different, like the Bounty Bowl. We've talked ad nauseum about it. We've done shorts about it. The famous. I now don't think Buddy Ryan had any bounties out. I think Jimmy Johnson created this for motivation. It didn't work this time, but I love the legend of supposedly Buddy Ryan said, if you go knock out their kicker, I'll pay you thousands of dollars. So Jesse Small tries to and basically knocks Tony Zendejas into next week. Or Luis Zendejas. Tony was his brother who was kicked for the Rams. Jimmy Johnson came on live TV and talked about it and insulted Ryan. And I'll give Buddy Ryan credit. He was really good at when you insulted him, he could flip it back on you. I think Buddy Ryan, and I know Jimmy gets the better accolades, but I think that's the one guy that still sticks in Jimmy Johnson's craw.
Yeah, it seemed like Buddy Ryan knew how to just rile up Jimmy Johnson in the best way possible for us viewers, because Jimmy Johnson, he wore his emotions on his sleeve, or I guess on his shoulder, whatever that phrase is. He when he spoke, you knew exactly what he was going to like. He didn't hide anything. You knew exactly how he felt in his interviews. Usually anger, which there's not enough. Sometimes there's not enough beers and nachos for him to calm down.
Exactly.
Famously, his favorite things to eat.
Heineken and
not bad. I actually want to hang out with him.
I know, man. Heineken's and hot nachos, and he likes to watch fish in the aquariums. You have the 87 classic game. Again, a lot of people will forget about this because this was a bad Dallas team, but they took Minnesota overtime. They lose 44-38. Darren Nelson had a game-ending 24-yard touchdown run. I always liked that Viking team, that era. I like their uniforms at the time. They wore the white face mask. Still think that that's a very underrated look for them. I like the gray. Don't get me wrong. Don't go back to the purple. That's terrible. Yeah, that's a good moment or a fun game. Dallas 30, New York 3. This is kind of the beginning of, I think they had done it a couple years before, but this is the year that the turkey leg became such a big thing. And I think a lot of it had to do with, as you were talking about it, it was Emmett and his offensive line, and they're all just, usually you'd see them kind of pretend, and Nate Newton's like, no, dude, you gave me a turkey leg. He's literally like, I am hungry. He just like debones it within 3 seconds. But that was just a real fun moment. As a Cowboy fan, I think that's when you realize, oh crap, we're back. Like, as a kid, I'm like, 91 was nice. You made the playoffs, but you're still a little worried. And here you just destroyed a New York Giant team that's still a pretty damn good team.
Yeah, that Giant team was 2 years or more removed from a Super Bowl championship. This Cowboy team, they were the young team. A lot of their big time players were in their early to mid 20s. So the game was really nothing. It was a 30-3 blowout. But it's just that moment. And this is before I started. This is a season before I started watching. My first recollection of football was the Houston-Buffalo wildcard game, that crazy game.
So obviously, on YouTube that tried to claim you're lying about that.
There's someone that's claiming I'm lying
about
that.
What he did, either the biggest rivals or something. They literally were like, there's no way that's his first game. You just happen to watch one of the greatest. Well, that's how that works. That's how people become sports fans. Like they become sports fans because literally the first thing they watch happens to be something so amazing and historic. You're like, I need to see that again. I want to be a part of that more. So it's just weird to me. People are just so weird. But anyway, of course, the 1998 one, Minnesota, Dallas. Vikings rookie Randy Moss, who was extremely angry because he thought he was going to Dallas, and Dallas took Greg Ellis over him. He caught 3 touchdowns on 3 catches, all of 50 yards. and they progressively got easier and easier. Like the first one was a little tough, and then the second one he's like 5 yards, and the third one it's like, is there even a Cowboy on the field at the moment? And the crazy thing is people forget how great Dallas's offense was that game. That was a good Dallas offense that year. They were bad on defense. I always remember that's the same year they played Denver in Denver and defending Super Bowl champs. And Dallas for the first quarter and a half went toe-to-toe for them. 7-0, 7-7, 14. And then once Dallas had to kick a field goal, you just like, oh, damn it. That was nice. Here we go. But yeah, that was such a great game from both sides offensively.
Yeah, it was. Aikman had a really good game, an uncharacteristic amount of yards passing in that game. I think he got over 400. During the dynasty, he would probably he'd probably barely get to 200 because 195 was in the first half, and then maybe 20 was in the second half. But yeah, they had to just keep pace. And I still remember the thing I remember most about this game is Randall Cunningham kind of having a comeback story. Leaves the Eagles after 95, takes a year off in 96, signs with the Vikings in 97, leads them to an upset win against the Giants in the wild card in 97. 98, entrenched as a starter. 15-1 season. Best team probably that never won the Super Bowl outside of the 07 Patriots. My memory of that game is him calling plays, and then you see his face looking at the camera with a little bit of a smile because he's just so happy because this is probably the best team he's ever been on. And it's a crime that they didn't win the Super Bowl that season, but I just love that image of him happy. Like he seems like he's at peace in that one image.
No, I totally agree with you. And then another great moment that sucked for Dallas, the 2012 one, I call it the RG3 game. Robert Griffin the third comes in a back and forth game. He throws 3 second quarter TDs. Washington makes it 28-3. Dallas did make it closer, but they never could get into close enough when they needed to. It basically became they scored, Washington scored, they scored, Dallas scored the last points, but I think it was like 30 seconds left. And Washington won 38-31. And man, we thought at that time, oh, Washington's young. They've got a good rookie quarterback. This is going to be scary. And this is why you can't assume things. Same thing with Jaden Daniels with Washington now. You can't assume because what happened in 1 year is going to be replicated because a lot of times it's not.
Yeah, I mean, this was an amazing year for RG3 in Washington. They ended up making the playoffs. Trying to think, they lost in the wild card round mainly because Shanahan, the head coach, he overused RG3 and he played him when he was hurt, and he just got even more hurt in the home game, in the wild card game. And RG3 was never the same after that. There was reports that he couldn't read a defense, and you could watch some videos that kind of lead to that, but one of the best rookie seasons by a quarterback ever.
He was never given a chance. Like he never was given a chance to be a complete quarterback after that knee injury. So we don't know. Houston has a great Thanksgiving moment and a moment that's historical in the NFL, and it's in the same year. That's when Houston outlasted Detroit 33-31. The seminal moment is when head coach Jim Schwartz of the Lions challenged the play when he didn't have any challenges left. So
yeah, I guess the rule at the time was, but like now it is, replays or scoring touchdowns are always replayed. But at that time, if you threw a flag, it wasn't like an improper challenge, and it was assessed a 15-yard penalty on the kickoff, and they wouldn't review the play. So Detroit ended up losing the game as a result. And but now that rule got changed. So even if the head coach throws a flag, now after a scoring play, they'll just wave off the flag, but they'll still review the scoring touchdown, but not penalize the team.
Yeah, and that's the way it should have been. I mean, I get calling a penalty when you don't have timeouts because you're trying to, in effect, still stop the play, even if it's just to give you enough time for the official to say you don't have any timeouts, all that. You still can kind of get a break, get a play in and all that. This was, okay, the dude made a mistake. He's frustrated. You can at least, even if they'd have kept the penalty, I'd have been fine with, but you can at least review the damn play. Like, that was just a weird, no, you can't review it because we said so. Speaking of
Yeah.
officials' impacts, I think one of maybe the second most famous Thanksgiving moment. I think you could actually make the case that for modern fans, this is more famous than the Clint Longley because at this point, the Clint Longley is just a tale of yesteryear. I mean, I wasn't even born yet when it happened. But that's, of course, 1998. Detroit outlasts Pittsburgh 19-16 in overtime. But we all remember that at the coin toss, Phil Luckett declares that Jerome Bettis said, what was it? He said tails, but he claimed he didn't. It got really, really angry there for a minute. Luckett took a lot of crap because there have been a couple of other calls that year that he had been involved in, and a couple of them were bad calls. But I've heard the video when they cut out where you could only hear, and Jerome Bettis literally goes heads, tails. And so I get Luckett going, nope, you said heads. That's the first thing you said, so that's what I'm going with. I thought Luckett got kind of took crap for this one when it wasn't his fault.
Well, especially after how the game resulted, because the Lions just marched down and kicked the field goal to win the game. So it ended up hurting the Steelers that season. I don't think they even made the playoffs in '98. It's unfortunate. It was one game, and they got corrected after that week. So kudos to the NFL for changing the rules immediately.
Well, it did. I mean, it didn't start it right away, but it did start the beginning of why does the one team get to score in any way and win the game? The other team should get the ball. It took many years for that to finally happen, but this was one of the games that people pointed at.
And I want to go back to the 2012 season because I think that was like we said, we had Houston and Detroit, great game. We had Washington, Dallas, great game. But then the night game was New England at the New York Jets, the infamous butt fumble, which we don't have it on the list, but
yeah, it is. On the list.
It is? Oh.
Yeah, we have it down top 5 other moments.
Oh, never mind. Okay, I was making sure okay. For some reason, I don't recall ever putting that on there, but yeah, the butt fumble game. So yeah, 2012 was one of the more interesting Thanksgiving games in general. Just the mix of really good games and an infamous game.
Well, and as you're seeing on the video now, the famous butt fumble is Stabby Sanchez, or Mark Sanchez as he's known, in the middle of a play, decides to scramble up the middle of the field. And it was one of those things you could see coming before it happened, which I think that's what made it funny, because everybody watching that game had oh no, oh my God, face first, right into the butt. But also people forget, this was a game that was scoreless at the end of the first quarter. This was a back and forth battle between two teams that hated each other. The Jets were, they'd had the magical run at the time of back-to-back AFC title games. They had injuries this year. They weren't good. Belichick hates Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan hates him and ugly feet. And New England proceeded to just absolutely in that second quarter. I mean, they basically did the Washington Redskins versus Denver Broncos 1987 Super Bowl, 35 points. It was the flip, though, was so crazy. And then you had the butt fumble.
When we talk about the Christmas games, we're going to talk about 2001 with Tennessee comes to Dallas. And it's on a Monday night. In 2000, Tennessee was great. Dallas was definitely not great. But yeah, that kind of happened in the second half where just a series of events made it, a low-scoring game Tennessee just scored 24 points off of 4 turnovers.
So in 2012, you have those moments. And then the very next year in 2013, you had Baltimore, Pittsburgh. This is at I guess you could still say that the height of that rivalry is still going, but especially back then. This is when these two teams just I remember Ray Lewis said, you loved playing them, but you hated them because you were going to be sore for 3 weeks later. And I remember he said that 1 or 2 years where they put them 2 out of 3 games in a row, even both sides were just like, this sucks. I'm sorry, I'm about to hurt you and you're about to hurt me. And then Mike Tomlin created, I can't believe how forgotten this has become. As you're seeing on the screen, Mike Tomlin basically unintentionally tries to stop a special teams play happening down the sideline. And did he even get a penalty?
I think he got a penalty. I can't remember now. I know he got fined a bunch of money, but yeah, it was insane. Like you could clearly see him kind of trying to. I know, like heavy quotes unintentionally, but the late great Jacoby Jones, a great
Oh,
special teams guy. The Super Bowl MVP in 2012 too. Baltimore's going in this game as the defending champions.
yep. And no, he wasn't penalized, but he was fined $100,000.
I think he would have rather been penalized.
Oh yeah, no duh. It's just weird how that game gets kind of forgot about. Another 2022 was a great one. Buffalo 28, Detroit 25. That's the game of 23 seconds because the year before was 13 seconds, meaning the Bills lost to the Chiefs when they scored with 13 seconds left, and Mahomes famously got them down the field. Buffalo flipped that on Detroit. This was just a fun game because you could see the makings of what Detroit was going to be. They were at that stage where they were just good enough to be competitive against the good teams, but they didn't quite have the ability to make that final drive, that final stop, whatever it took to win.
Yeah, good point. I was about to just make that point. This is second year of Dan Campbell as head coach. The prior year, 2021, they were 13-1. And then in 2022, this season you're referencing, they started off, I think, 1-6, but then they started going on a run. They had won 3 games in a row going into Thanksgiving. They were competitive against a really good Bills team. And the Bills, like you said, in 23 seconds, they were able to go down and get the game-winning kick to win the game. But Detroit ended up winning all but one more game. And they finished 9-8. And actually, their last game, they ended Aaron Rodgers' Green Bay career. Yep. On a Sunday night game where the Packers, all they had to do was win and they were in the playoffs. And Detroit went into Green Bay, which they typically don't win, especially late in the season. And then they beat the Packers. And then the Lions that we know of today, 2023 champs, 2024 division champs, it was kind of birthed around this time. So it was kind of like it was a good game, but it was kind of like a nice way to look at the birth of a great team.
Yep. I remember Dallas playing them that year, and it was really, really close to the second or to the fourth quarter. And Dallas got a couple touchdowns. I think that's when I think that might have been Schoonmaker or Peyton Hendershot's first touchdown as a Cowboy. And that kind of sealed the deal and finished it off. It was like 6-3 or 6-6 going into for most of the game. And I remember thinking, dude, the Lions are starting to figure this out. Now, at the time, we all thought they just need to find a quarterback. And then Jared Goff reminded them the next year, like, no, you had the quarterback. It's just, it took me a while. I'm back, guys. All right, let's see. I'm just looking at other top 5 moments. 08, Tennessee, great. Detroit, terrible. Tennessee went out and just beat them like a drum. It was no doubt. It was ugly. One of the few games that I don't even know if I checked in on this one. Like, it was just that bad. And Tennessee was good, but they were a boring good. Like, it was the 7 and 9s. They were just, everything they did, somebody said it best about when you watch a Jeff Fisher coach team, even when they're successful, it looks like it takes so much out of them just to succeed. They never won with ease. And even though they did win this game with ease, but as a season, they were just so boring at 10-1.
Yeah. And they ended up winning, 13-3, number 1 seed in the 08 season. They ended up losing, I think, to Baltimore in the divisional round. But yeah, overall, this is a great team. Kerry Collins had a resurgent of a year. I can't remember if Vince Young got benched or he was hurt, but they had to insert Kerry Collins.
Wasn't that the year of the controversy where Jeff Fisher claimed he was trying to unalive himself and everything? And Vince was like, I just went and got wings. Like,
maybe Mario could chime in here since we have the chat. But yeah, it might have been that season, because I know the next season Young was a Pro Bowler, because Collins struggled the next season. Then Vince Young comes in and they go 8-2 to close out the season 8. That was the Chris Johnson 2,000-yard season.
Well, it's also the year, isn't that the year famously where the Patriots beat them so bad, like. And I remember the Tex or the Oilers wore their blue helmet. I don't think I have that in the picture right now. I don't, because it's over there. They wore their blue helmet and white jersey. It was a great look. It was in the driving snow, and the New England Patriots beat them like 47-0 or something. One of the worst beatings ever. But anyway, that was a boring 10-1 team, and they beat a really bad Detroit team. Another Detroit memory includes Buffalo. And wait, why did you say on this? Detroit 27, Buffalo 14, but you must talk about my favorite quarterback and running back, Mark Stabshez and OJ slash Simpson. That's weird. But no, OJ Simpson had a huge game, but they couldn't put points on the board because their quarterback, Gary Morangi, went 4 of 21 for 29 yards. Now, the saddest thing is, I think that's still a better game than what Blake Mosimer had for the Vikings, and yet the Vikings just eliminated the Lions. Like, I don't think he threw. I think he threw for less than that, didn't he?
I think so. It was pretty terrible on his performance. Hey, kudos to the entire scheme for the Vikings against the Lions this past week, because the Vikings had no business beating the Lions this past week, but they figured it out.
They not only beat them, but they beat them going away. Like, that is the craziest thing. It wasn't like he was terrible and they won 6-3 or anything.
Yeah, I think it was 23-10 Vikings.
23-10 on the day. Oh no, I am so sorry. I said Max Brosmer. You were 9 of 16 for 51. So you technically had a better day.
Hey, put some respect to his name, sir.
I didn't even know he was. There's always 4 or 5 guys every year that will be in the league, and I'll be in like, I've never heard of this guy. I had to look him up. He was at Minnesota. By the way, the Minnesota Golden Gophers over the last 5 years, look at their record. They literally have the same record as LSU over the last 5 years, like almost to a T. Like, somebody posted on one of the college fans, and I'll cut this off the holiday thing. I'm just talking to you right now. They literally have like the same versus division, conference versus ranked, everything. Nobody talks about Minnesota. It's really weird.
They always seem like the team that gets 8 wins, 9 wins, but never more than that.
And that's kind of what they've been doing. All right, let's talk about individual moments and such. I want to talk about Walter Stanley. Says who? I remember this game. 1986, Green Bay outlasts Detroit 44-40. It was the second highest scoring game, or it is the second highest scoring game in Thanksgiving history. Oddly, and I said oddly, but it's those two teams again as the first. That was all the way back in the 50s. Detroit won 52-35. But what I remember about this was this everything Walter Stanley. You got to remember, I'm 9 years old. I'm opponents I still don't know. Like, I know Washington, the Giants, the Eagles, because we played them. And you start to, that was my ecosystem. I got sporting news and I'd read about other guys and stuff. But I just remember being enthralled by this game because this dude just kind of came out of nowhere. And he had what you would call the game of your life. We had the one-hit wonders. We had the one-game wonders. This will be a one-game wonder reel. In fact, we'll do it right now. Walter Stanley, 207 total yards, 3 touchdowns. He had an 83-yard punt return for the win. He had a catch for a win. I think he might even had a rush. I think he did the trifecta. But the crazy thing is the rest of his career, he was just a backup journeyman.
Yeah, his career overall was unremarkable, but for one game, he had one all-time great game. Not as good as we'll talk about in the Christmas part of this show, Ed Podolak with the Chiefs in 71, but this, outstanding game.
Here's a crazy thing. Those were the only 3 touchdowns he scored in his career.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that fact.
Here's the other crazy thing. He played until 1992. The 85 and 92, it's only 7 years, but just when you think about like where Dallas was, again, this is why until the last 30 years, God, you can stop now. Everybody was like, we were kind of like New England. Think about it. 85 was our last great year, and oh my God, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, how terrible can we ever be good again? Now we're the best team in the league again. I just realized Bill Belichick and New England, and now what's left is basically Dallas from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, except for Belichick just won 2 more Super Bowls. That is so crazy to think about how these programs have mirrored each other in different times.
Yeah, no, in a way. 66 to 85, they had winning seasons. They didn't even put that together. That's pretty cool. And then really, with the Patriots, they only had that really one bad year, which is 2023, his last season.
Yeah.
Tom Landry, his only one bad year was 88. They were 3-13. That was his one bad. They were like 7-8. in '87. They
Yeah,
were 7-9.
I was like, you make the case that they don't play Tony Dorsett and all them when they cross the picket line and were obviously out of shape. That's the one thing nobody likes to tell about that story, which is still a great story. Even though Washington is who beat Dallas, I still think it's a great story. But it was obvious they weren't ready to play. And if you don't play them, you're at 8-8. And if I'm not mistaken, I think 8-8 would have got them into the playoffs that year because of the weird how the strike handle thing. But anyway, I just always remembered Stanley. It's just one of those cool things. I don't know if you have this one on the list. This is a play. Let me see before I go through here. It's the Lawrence Taylor play. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the pick six.
Yep. That was all. That's just more of a seminal moment for a guy that already was you could see was going to be a stud. And you talked about him at linebacker and how he was and then he drops in pass coverage, intercepts Gary Danielson, runs at 97 yards for the game-winning touchdown while probably doing crack and hitting up 12-year-olds all at the same time. That was the moment where I was like, this dude is different. Because I didn't remember Hollywood Henderson. I know what he did and all, and we had a short. In fact, it's still our biggest Facebook reels. They had over 2 million views now, where I said people in the 70s say that Hollywood Henderson was the Lawrence Taylor before Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence Taylor has always said, my number 56 is because of Hollywood Henderson. But I don't remember seeing Hollywood Henderson live. I saw this live, and I remember in that moment, 7-year-old me peeing a little and going, oh Lord, this is not going to be good for Dallas over the next 5-10 years. And it wasn't.
Do you remember what year that was? Was
82.
it was 82? Okay.
I remember I remember the play. I remember where I was at on the couch at my Aunt Nell's. I just remember because Dallas, New York was starting to get better. And they were such a they were the doormat. They were the doormat more than the Cardinals were at one point. And so I just always remember that. And so, yeah, that was just, that's one of those I will always remember. When you go, why do you love football? That's a play that will pop up in my mind.
I like it. Hey, that's a great moment, really, to be honest with you. I don't know if they did well that season. I know they didn't do well in '83. I think they made the playoffs in '81.
Yeah, they made the playoffs in '81. They famously beat Dallas the last week of the season. Dallas didn't have anything to play for. They kicked the field goal to win. '82, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was injuries.
Oh, okay. It was also a strike shortened season too. So they were 3-6, 4-5, something like that.
They're 4-5. Yeah, I mean they were. I mean, again, you got to remember, man. This was the year they didn't do. They literally just took off. They didn't do whatchamacallits. And I mean, you're talking about Washington was 8-1, Dallas was 6-3, St. Louis was 5-4, New York was 4-5, and Philadelphia was 3-6. I mean, even Philadelphia at 3-6 only had a -4 points. They scored 191. They played that. They only gave up 195.
Yeah, as a team that was 2 years removed from representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
I think that was Vermil's last year, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
He started getting wore down.
Yeah, because I think, it was 15 years later in '97 he started coaching the Rams.
All right, and then in 2011, you've got the Brothers Bowl, Baltimore, San Francisco, foretelling of a Super Bowl a year later. I don't know why that Super Bowl is really weird. We're going to have to do an episode of you and I, because now that we have this technology where you don't have to be in the studio, we're going to put up a lot more off-season historical context, because to me, that Super Bowl should be one of the most talked about things. You've got brothers going against each other as head coach. You've got the lights going out in New Orleans. Historically, now looking back, you've got Colin Kaepernick, and we can talk about what people forget about. I don't care about your political views and all that. The dude was a way better than quarterback than what people want to give him credit for, especially in that playoff run. That Super Bowl doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And I think it's because of the lights going out during the Super Bowl. Because Baltimore was up big, and then when the lights went out, that's when the 49ers apparently turned it back on, because they almost came back and won that game. It was a 4th and goal stop that ended the game. So, yeah, I agree with you. That was probably one of the better Super Bowls that no one does talk about.
All right, is there any more Thanksgiving games you want to bring up? I think we got them all pretty good.
I think we did a good job. Let me see. There's anything else. Oh, just moments. There was one from '77. Miami beat St.
Oh
Louis
yeah.
55-14. Only it was a blowout, but Bob Greasy, he threw a Thanksgiving record 6 touchdowns. Now it was a record at the time. It's been tied by Peyton Manning in 2004 with the Colts.
Yep.
Um, let's see. And then the Dolphins also scored a Thanksgiving record 55 points in the game, which has also been tied by the Lions when they hosted Chicago in 1997.
So the old what do you call it? Urban legend is that either I've heard it two ways. I heard Pete Rozelle called Tex and said, "I'm sorry, you're getting the game back next year." Or Tex called Pete Rozelle, and I kind of want to believe this one because this is kind of the guy Tex was, and said, "We might lose a game, but we're not going to be embarrassed on Thanksgiving Day." And I love either one of those stories, but supposedly that's the main reason why Rozelle went back to the Cowboys and all that. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, it's fine.
I want it
All
to be
right.
true.
I do too. All right, let's flip over to. Hang on. No, seriously, hang on. This button's stuck. Got it? Seriously?
Wardrobe malfunction.
Boom.
Oh,
Christmas
taking it off.
time. I had enough shots. I'm at that point. I say Christmas time. I actually meant to bring my I have a Beetlejuice hand. You've seen Beetlejuice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the hand where he's got the candy and it's a lever. Well, I have that. I meant to bring it. I didn't. I want to talk Halloween. Again, this is all a Hall of Fame. Again, brought to you by Kroger's. You saw the commercial at the beginning. You'll see the commercial at the end. I said this earlier. I think I said it in the live part of the show, not this part. I'm going to try to find the video. I just remember there's a Monday night football, and I don't know if it was Halloween night, the night before, the night after, but everybody was wearing masks in the stadium, and they just spent the whole time like that's what they were doing. It was they were focusing on that. And there's all these great masks and things, and so I always remember that. But the biggest one I always remember, this is actually a personal thing too for me. But Dallas at Philadelphia. Again, we talked about it earlier. We thought Dallas was, dead to rights at times in that season. They'd started 0-2. They were getting strong. The one negative about Troy Aikman is he doesn't throw a good wet football. And so, of course, in Philadelphia, it proceeds to be a torrential downfall. And this is the game, in my opinion, that made me realize we weren't just looking at a good running back. We were looking at a great running back because Emmitt Smith against the defense that had at times 9 men in the box, a good Philadelphia defense, by the way. This isn't a Philadelphia defense that's terrible. Proceeds to run for 237 yards, including probably one of the most, I think this one and the Giants run, which was 65 yards to start Monday night in 1995, are two of his most well-known runs. He goes right up the middle, 62 yards, and they score. And I just remember at that time, again, we didn't know what was going to happen at Thanksgiving in Atlanta, but at that time I was thinking, holy crap, this team is legitimate. They're not just a Super Bowl team. This is the beginning of a dynasty.
Yeah. No, Philadelphia did lose Randall Cunningham for the season, but they were still a competitive team. They were going to this game 4-2. Dallas was also going to this game 4-2. So whoever won this game was gonna compete with the Giants for the NFC East title this season. So high stakes. The weather made it a lower scoring game. It was pretty tight for the most part. Before that run, it was 16-10 down. Dallas needed something because they couldn't just pull away from Philadelphia. It was just a lowering game that to settle for field goals. Murray kicked 3 field goals in that game. But what they could do was run the football. And because Aikman, I think, threw for under 100 yards in this game. He was 9 of 19, 96 yards, got sacked twice. You weren't going to be winning this game passing the ball. The weather was just too bad. But for some reason, the Cowboys were still able to, because of the Great Wall of Dallas, because we always called it the Great Wall of Dallas.
That still bothers us.
Yeah, I know. 30 carries, 230. Yes, I know.
Other Halloween games for Dallas. The other only really memorable one is Dallas, Minnesota. Dallas upsets Minnesota 20-16 using a backup. So back-to-back years, Dallas beats Minnesota in Minnesota with a backup quarterback. Because remember, they did the same thing in 2020. That was the famous CeeDee Lamb made his first, what you call, holy crap, this guy's going to be special catch, and they win. And then Cedric Wilson goes big on a 73-yarder as Cooper Rush had his best game of his career, and he was legitimately good. Like, he wasn't throwing up balloons. He was throwing man, when Cooper Rush is dialed in, again, that's what we talk about. Great quarterbacks can do it all the time. When Cooper Rush is at his best, I think he's as good, if not better, than Baker Mayfield. He just can't find that consistency, and I'm saying that about Mayfield, who doesn't have consistency. Rush is even worse. But I just remember just how much fun that game was, because this was a Dallas team that was kind of, you know, the 2020 injuries had happened. They were good again in 2021, but everybody was out this game, and yet they still won the game.
Yeah, there was no reason they should have won this game against Minnesota, but they figured it out. Well, Minnesota kind of self-destructed too. I mean, they were one of 13 on third downs, and then both teams combined 18 penalties. So Minnesota had a knack for keeping teams like Dallas in games in 2021.
That was kind of their thing. And then at that era of the year before, when Dallas upset it was kind of the same way. Minnesota outplayed them. I remember on that drive that Lamb caught that great pass. I'm going to go ahead and show that on the video too. No, it's not a holiday. I think Minnesota had 2 third-down defensive penalties that kept that drive going. I mean, that's just what they did. That's why Kevin O'Connell got hired, and we feel so good about him because they don't seem to do that as much. But anyway, other Halloween games: Chicago, St. Louis, 1966. The Cardinals win when Larry Wilson. I know he's a Hall of Famer, but still somehow underrated. You can be an underrated Hall of Famer. Nobody talks about him when they talk about greatest cornerbacks or greatest secondary players. Larry Wilson was an interception machine. He had 3 in this game, including a game-clinching pick 6. I've watched so many video of him. He was one of those guys. Him and Jake Scott are so fun to watch because, and yes, they played in an era where they could headhunt and still, you know, they didn't, you know, man, Chuck Cecil in the 70s would have been a Hall of Famer. I mean, seriously, he really would have, because that's the way the game was played. But it was still fun to watch, like Larry Wilson, because he was physical, but he was always a really good technique in his his man-on-man coverage technique.
Yeah, unfortunately, he played for St. Louis, and they didn't really go far in the playoffs when they were good. But yeah, definitely a Hall of Famer. You know, like kind of like Aeneas Williams for most of his career, also with the Cardinals. He wasn't on the best teams, but you knew he was good just because he was always getting stats, defending passes.
Dude, you just did the defensive side of Matt Stafford.
Oh.
He plays on a bad franchise for most of his career, goes to the Rams, wins Super Bowls. Aeneas Williams does not get into the Hall of Fame without those Super Bowls. Not that corners have to win Super Bowls, but he wasn't. Everybody knew he was good, but you know, he's on a bad team. He's the good guy on a bad team. Him going to the Rams and winning that Super Bowl kind of, in my opinion, solidified that Hall of Fame, which, again, where Everson Walls will eventually get as well.
Yeah, Everson Walls for sure will get it. I mean, he has the classic photo of the missed kick by Scott Norwood to hang on his head. Like that, him.
Yep, on
doing
Sports
that. Yeah, that's, if anything, do that. I actually don't think Aeneas Williams won that Super Bowl. I think he was, yeah. He actually didn't, surprisingly. He went to the Rams in 2000.
Oh, okay. I thought he won the Super Bowl.
He wasn't on the 99 team. He was with the Cardinals when they were Phoenix in 91. So he was with the Cardinals from 91 to 2. So he got a good 10 years.
Yeah. I missed it by a year.
It was just crazy.
He played in a Super Bowl and also was a key contributor of a team that was still good for a few years.
Oh yeah. His last year, 2004, they were 8-8, but I think I remember them winning their first round. It was a weird year where St. Louis and Minnesota were both 8-8, but they both went on the road and ended up winning the wild card matchups and upsets.
Think about how crazy the world NFL changes. You're talking about 2 teams that were 8-8. That one team in 1999 was 15-1, and then the Rams were 13-3 or 12-4 when they won the Super Bowl, and then went to another Super Bowl. I mean, that's why, like, when everybody bequeathed Detroit as the next, you got to do it. Until you do it, You ain't quite there yet. But anyway, let's see other Halloween games. I mean, a lot of these are just games that were on Sunday on Halloween. New York beating the Eagles 23-17. Famously, Michael Strahan's 44-yard pick six. I remember that. And I remember the Eagles were dominating early and the Giants came back. That was a fun rivalry. I mean, it still is, but that was a fun rivalry back then, man, because those two teams, that was one of those where both of them were good. And even then when they weren't, they played each other close.
Yeah. And the Giants the next season, they kind of carried off of a pretty strong finish to 99. And then 2000, they went 12-4 and went to the Super Bowl. This is a pretty... Huh?
I just say a controversial holding call changed that game. The Giants on a pick. What did Strahan on that too? Or was it Armstead that called
Armstead? Yeah.
Armstead called the pick six, which completely changes the game, but they call a hold. I can't even remember now if it's a good call or not. I just know it was controversial because you knew that was the only way they were going to score. Kerry Collins was not peeing a drop against that Ravens defense. Let's see.
2004, 3 games on a Sunday.
What, on Halloween?
Yeah, on Halloween. So
go to them.
One was New England and Pittsburgh.
Oh, the snap.
I don't know.
Snap the streak. Big Ben.
Yes. So the Patriots had the 21-game winning streak going in. They won the Super Bowl this season prior. They had a big win. They lost, I think, to Washington in 2003. They went 2-2, and they didn't lose again in 2003. Going in 2004, they were, I think, 6-7-0. Pittsburgh was like 6-1. The rookie quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, was undefeated. They started Tommy Maddox the first 2 games, so Roethlisberger has been playing ever since. This was a well-constructed team for Roethlisberger. They had strong running game, very strong defense.
Yep.
And New England came into town, were outmatched. And Pittsburgh won 34-20, and that ended the Patriots' 21-game winning streak. That was on a Sunday in 04. And also a Sunday in 04 was just a back-and-forth offensive showcase. Indianapolis and Kansas City.
I remember this game because this was my second full year into true fantasy. I had told you before I'd been in fantasy in the early 90s where it was just aggregate score. And you still have these leagues. There's a lot of these. You weren't playing an individual like me versus you this week. It was just your guys, and everybody could in theory have the same. It's kind of like FanDuel. Everybody in theory could have the same roster if everybody drafted the same. And you would mail it, and it would be so fun. I mean, I don't know how. There had to be times where shit got late. I don't remember. But like you'd have to mail your things in by Wednesday. And so you wouldn't get the results of the next week unless you counted by yourself till Thursday. So it was just really hard to do that. But this in 2004 was one of the first times that I really was in a league. I think this was Yahoo's first year of Yahoo Fantasy Football or close to it. And in this game, I had Peyton Manning, Priest Holmes, and Marvin Harrison. I had a good week.
You had a really good week because
I remember watching this game just so excited, just because these were the 2 most prolific offenses at this time. I mean, this was one of those games you look forward to, and when the game happened like that, and I remember and this is back when Yahoo, you still couldn't check your shit though. This was before the app, so you had to wait till the next, you had to wait till Monday for the scoring tabulation, or at least Sunday night. It wasn't real time, but I remember going, I think I'm probably going to win this week.
Yeah, Peyton Manning, 5 touchdowns, almost 500 passing yards. Priest Holmes, he ran for over 140 yards. He had over 80 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. So yeah, you definitely won that. Chiefs win 45-35. This is a rematch of the 03 divisional matchup at Arrowhead between the Colts and the Chiefs, which Manning, that was his first playoff win.
When they boat raced the Chiefs.
Yeah, it was back. The Colts were the better team, but it was kind of like this game. It was high scoring, but just the other team won. And that also is the game where it references my Noe's numbers, the epic 27, which was the age of Peyton Manning when he won his first playoff game, and then Tom Brady was 27 when he won his 3rd Super Bowl.
Nice. One of the things else I remember, this was also Peyton Manning's Tony Romo, Dak Prescott game. This was a game when people said, okay, you know what? Maybe it's not Peyton Manning can't win in the playoffs. Maybe they need a better defense. And they shored up that defense. It never was great, but they shored up that defense. Though you could also make the case they probably played the best team they could have played in the Super Bowl in Chicago. The one team that, the only reason they didn't run well is because they didn't throw well either. I mean, that's a video in of itself. How the hell did the Chicago Bears make and I know defense and John, but you know what I'm saying? That's a video for us one year. We got to talk about that season.
Half that video will be that Monday night game at Arizona and the famous Dennis Green rant. They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Crown them.
Yeah, crown them. Yeah, you want to crown them? Crown them.
Rest in peace.
Because that game kind of summarized the Bears in 2006. They were great special teams. They're great defense,
and they were gritty.
They were gritty. They could run the ball. It was just that quarterback.
Thomas Jones.
I think was Cedric Benson a rookie this season? I can look the 06 Bears, but yeah, maybe Thomas Jones.
Yeah, we can look it up because again, this is all editing stuff. 2006 Bears.
We could make it to where we just knew this off the top of our head.
Yeah. It sounds magical. There's only 6 people watching left, so we're good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Thomas Jones, and then Cedric Benson, the rookie Cedric. I think he was a rookie, or maybe the year before. Yeah, he was the year before. Yeah, this is second year. Benson had almost 700 yards that season, and then Thomas Jones had over 1,200.
It's crazy to think that with the Bears, he was a disappointment.
R.I.P.
God, another one. Jeez, damn. The Bears got rid of him too early. I mean, they made that mistake. They got rid of him too early because at Cincinnati, man, he was phenomenal. All right, let's see other ones. Oakland versus San Diego, 2004. Chargers win 42-14 behind Drew Brees'. That's right, folks. Look it up. He was a Charger. 5 touchdown passes. That was at that point, Drew Brees was the Baker Mayfield of that era because he could be really, really good, but you thought at the time that there was a cap to his level, kind of like a Pennington. You thought that he was basically the new Chad Pennington. He's too small. He throws a deep ball, but he can't really make all the NFL throws. We didn't realize that Sean Payton would know how to unlock all that and make the offense work to him. Hey, try that, defensive coordinators for the Dallas Cowboys. Try fitting your game to what your players do well. Just try it out. Just see what happens. Might keep your job. 2013, Cincinnati and Miami. Miami wins 22-20. Cameron Wake's safety. How many times is a overtime game ended in a safety? I remember that game, actually. Brent Grimes also had a big play. All right, Big Friday, or Black Friday, of course, these are new. But the Miami and the Jets in 2023, Dolphins dominate 34-13. Strong defense. Javon Holland. Man, I forgot about Javon Holland. 99-yard pick six. And that kind of deflated the Jets. Remember, we all remember what happened. Well, what really deflated the Jets was 5 minutes into the Monday Night Football game at the beginning of the year. It is so that is the oddest thing to me. Is the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers story is so together. They both start with Green Bay. They both have historical careers with Green Bay. They both win one Super Bowl, but feel like they should have won more. Kind of underperformed in the big games in the moment, which nobody remembers that. And they'll both make the Hall of Fame. They both get really odd politically, and they're both still odd politically. Brett Favre shows his dick to everybody. They go to the Jets. They suck with the Jets, mainly because of injuries. And by the way, I think you're the one that's pointed out, people need to look at Brett Favre for the Jets before his thumb injury. Like, he should have sat out. Like, I know Brett had that streak, but if Brett sits out, the Jets might salvage that season because the Jets actually weren't bad that year.
Yeah, and then think about what happened the next 2 years with Mark Sanchez. They make it to back-to-back AFC title games. So the seeds were there for a great team. They just had to be patient. But and the thing is, the other thing that would have tied these two quarterbacks together was Rodgers. I think he really wanted to play for the Vikings this season.
He did. I think if you ask Kevin O'Connell again, dude, I mean, I like what he's doing with the Steelers, but dude, if you put Aaron Rodgers with that wide receiver core, I think the Vikings are 13-4, 14-3. Just
At worst.
At worst, dude. Like that is, again, I like O'Connell, and maybe he didn't have the deciding say, but I still contend if you're the quarterback guy, that's what you're thought of. I think that's going to be the one thing, especially if he never wins a Super Bowl, that'll be the moment we all look back and go, that was when he made that big mistake. And I'm not just saying Rodgers, keep Sam Darnold, bring back Daniel Jones. Hell, I would even say Geno Smith there is a completely different quarterback. He's just going with JJ. I know I have something against JJ. I don't even know why I don't like him. I just don't like him. And then, of course, 2024, the famous Vegas, Kansas City. This is when the Raiders, they're still bad. But, man, for some reason, for about 3 years there, they just always played the Chiefs really, really tough. Wasn't another one a Christmas Day one?
Yeah, it was a Christmas Day one. The Raiders, I think, won like 20-6 on 2 defensive touchdowns.
Was that the very next year, though?
I think it was the year prior.
Or was it the year prior? I know they were back to back, I think.
I think they were, I think it was like 2023, if I'm not mistaken. It was the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl because they didn't lose another game after that Christmas Day loss. I think it was 2023. I'm going to go with that. Final answer.
Let's look it up. 2023, the Raiders win 20-14. You win nothing. All right, let's now go to Christmas Day. Dallas, until this week, they won this week against Washington. Fun game.
Now they're 3-3 on Christmas.
But man, when they look bad on Christmas, they look bad on Christmas. But partly it's because a lot of that's when they played at Christmas. Of course, their first time was in a playoff game and I know there was only 14 or 12 games at that time, maybe 14, but they played the playoffs before the next year. I know that's a wild concept. But Dallas beats Minnesota 20-12 to advance the NFC title game against is that the same year that they beat Detroit 5-3 with a double in the 7th inning?
I think it was 70 when they beat Detroit 5-3.
Yeah. That was back when that Dallas, look, we and you and I have talked about this before. The 78 era doomsday defense was amazing. Amazing. You're talking about legitimately that whole front four should probably be in the Hall of Fame, and that's not overstating it. But man, people underrate that even into the late 60s because they did have an issue tackling Jim Brown, but hey, nobody tackled Jim Brown, and no wife could withstand his right-hand punch. So, it was Jim Brown. He was amazing. But man, that defense back then could just dominate like we talk about 2000 Ravens, the Tampa Bays of 98, 99, the Steel Curtain. That early doomsday defense was so technically sound. They didn't have guys with a ton of stats because everybody just made the play. You just didn't make plays on them. You got to go. There's a video I'll send you later. But anyway, and then of course I think the most famous one. We did a reel on this. I might re-release that reel since it's Christmas time. Dallas at Arizona. Dallas goes onto the plane thinking they're going to be the 2nd seed. They're going to have to go out to San Francisco, a team that had whipped their ass in Dallas. It wasn't even close, folks. I will admit, Dallas doesn't beat San Francisco in San Francisco that year. I will 100% admit that. They just, at that moment, the worm had turned. San Francisco had spent so much money, and they had the psychological and probably coaching edge on Dallas, but they couldn't beat Atlanta. Thank you, Falcons. And so Dallas, as they famously said, again, remember, this is before cell phones and stuff. Well, you had the big ones, but you ain't texting or anything. Dallas lifts off as the 2 seed, lands as the 1 seed if they beat Arizona. They go on to beat them. Of course, everybody remembers Emmitt Smith breaks the touchdown record at that time at 25. Nobody remembers that Kevin Williams, who has saved the season 3 weeks before, had his best career day, 203 yards. Troy Aikman threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dallas wins going away 37-13. But if you ask a lot of people about that game, again, I know I keep saying this, we did a reel about this. A lot of people think Arizona won this game. And why do people think that, Noe?
Because this game was in the movie Jerry Maguire.
And what happened in that movie?
Arizona beats Dallas, and Cuba Gooding Jr. gets an Oscar.
and touches a lot of kids and stuff. Apparently, well, he's not a good guy either. I love that movie. I still love that movie to this day. I knowing that Dallas won in real life, it doesn't bother me because it was the. I just always loved the Troy Aikman, Lee Steinberg, his real agent at the time, when Cuba Gooding and Jerry are hugging. I can't. What was Cuba's name in this? I can't remember now. Damn it. Anyway, they're hugging, and Aikman looks at Lee Steinberg like, why don't we have a relationship like that? And Lee tries to hug him, and Troy's like, no. I always thought that was really funny. But yeah, a lot of people legitimately think Arizona won that game because of that movie. I just always think that's a cool thing. In 2000, Tennessee was great. Dallas was not. And they come in, and this is one of the few Cowboy games. I think this was a Christmas night game, if I'm not mistaken. I just remember it was close in the first half. You kind of had that hope, and then Tennessee said, oh, yeah, we're Tennessee. Watch this. And just proceed to pound the crap out of Dallas in the second half.
Yeah, it was a Monday night game.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, Tennessee had, the season prior, they made it to the Super Bowl. This season, they were the number 1 seed, and they were the best team in the AFC until, Baltimore came calling. But
I'm going to see if I can find it. I remember the intro was really, really good because it was a budding dynasty takes on a fading dynasty. And I remember even at the moment going, ow, that hurts. But that's kind of, well, we thought true. Tennessee didn't really ever get to that dynasty. But at the time, you thought that. They took their lumps in at the time, I think the greatest Super Bowl. They took their lumps in that, and you thought, hey, man, they're going to rock and roll. Ain't nobody going to beat them. Yeah, except for this. You know how that works. But anyway, Philadelphia, I don't remember this one, 06. I'll admit that. Philadelphia and Dallas, 06. Eagles win 23-7 on the way to winning the NFC East. Cowboys turned the ball over 3 times. They barely held the ball. Brian Westbrook ran for 120 yards. I will admit I don't really remember that one or the one against Arizona losing 27-26.
So the 06 one, it was basically to decide the NFC East title with a week to play. Dallas had just beaten
they played the Rams, didn't they?
The Lions. Remember that John Kitna?
That's the Kitna Brady James game.
Yeah. So yeah, it was basically I think Dallas came in here 9-5. Philadelphia was roughly the same record. And Philadelphia won. Dallas, I think they were just happy because the Atlanta win the week prior got them a playoff spot.
I think if they win out, they get like a 2 seed though.
It was because the NFC, the 2 seed in 2006 was New Orleans, and they were 10-6, so it was kind of a weak. And then the Bears were 13-3, so no one was catching them. But the 2 seed was definitely up for grabs. So, in 2010 with Arizona. I remember this game, and it was one of those head scratchers. Like, how did the Cowboys lose this? Romo got hurt early in the season. They weren't winning with him, but they were still competitive on offense, and they kind of went on a little bit of a roll toward the end of the season. Arizona, not a good team in 2010, but they get a couple of defensive scores, and it was one of those derpy, lucky wins in Arizona that happens every so often. And
Arizona just has Dallas's number over the last 15 years. Them and Denver, for whatever reason, Dallas just can't beat either one of those teams.
Yeah, it's especially when Dallas plays Denver in Denver, it's a blowout. But I remember the Teddy Bridgewater game here in Dallas a few years ago where they just shredded the Cowboys. I think they went up 30-0, and the Cowboys got a couple of just BS touchdowns just to make the score look competitive.
Yep. Exactly. And then 2 years ago, going into Arizona, and Arizona with wasn't Jacoby? Who was the quarterback? Dobbs, Joshua Dobbs, who, by the way, people forgot the year before when he was in Tennessee and did that spot start on Thursday night against Dallas, almost beat Dallas that game. Yep. Dallas had a tough, and I only remember that because that's actually the night that I signed on officially at L4 Media. We were down at Angry Dog watching the game, and I was meeting with Brett and Tish, and we were having drinks and eating that. Oh, that chili cheese dog is still so damn good. But I just remember going why is this dude doing what? I mean, he wasn't great, but he kept extending plays. But anyway, all right, let's go to we'll finish out with other great outside of Dallas Christmas games. I think it's the most famous for people like me and you. and older people, but Miami, Kansas City, 1971 playoff game, still the longest game in the history of the NFL, as the Dolphins win 27-24 in 2 overtimes on Gary Yepremian's 37-yard field goal. I mean, this was 2 really good teams. Either team deserved to be in the Super Bowl, and they unfortunately met in a divisional matchup.
Yeah, this is kind of like the last hurrah for the Chiefs because they won the Super Bowl. They won Super Bowl 4, which is the '69 season. 2 years later, the season we're talking about, they're hosting the Dolphins. No, Dolphins end up going to the Super Bowl. They play the Cowboys. The Cowboys win that one. They get their first Super Bowl. This game, if Kansas City wins, they might have been a problem for the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
I think they would have been. Their front look, Miami had a really good defense, but they were smallish, and Dallas was able to lean on them. Kansas City, they weren't as young. As you said, this was kind of their last gasp, but they had more meat on that defensive line, which at that time I think would have given Dallas a little bit more problems.
I think they would have too. Kansas City kind of fell in the same situation with the Packers. They had a great decade in the 60s. Packers had a good season in 72, Chiefs in 71, and they both kind of faded toward the end of the 70s and throughout most of the 80s. But yeah, this game, even in a loss, Ed Podolak, Ed Podolak. I mean, solid player career-wise, but this one game, 350 all-purpose yards in the loss. He had over 150 yards return, 85 rushing, 110 receiving, and all that great performance. He wasn't like the fastest of guys either, but he just for one game, he was able to turn it on.
All right, so real quick, edit point. I want to do a reel about something like that. So I'm gonna not tell you. So here we go. 3, 2. Intern Noah the Pro. Here we go. Hall of Fame or Hall of Very Good. Taysom Hill becomes the first person in the modern era to run for 1,000, throw for 1,000, and catch for 1,000 yards career. Hall of Fame or Hall of Good?
Hall of Very consistent. I mean, he had a role with the Saints, and he was consistently good at it. He was a jack of all trades, master of none. And
Damn it, that's what I used in the chat. You son of a bitch.
I think if they let him focus at tight end or at running back or at quarterback, I think he would have been close to a Hall of Fame because he is solid. He produces. He fills up the stat sheet when he gets the opportunity. He just doesn't get an opportunity for reasons. I say Hall of Very Good.
I do too. I think if they'd have won a Super Bowl or two, you kind of could then make the case. But because they didn't, a lot of his stats, I don't want to say they're empty, but they are just that. They're just stats. But still, fun player in an era of specialization to have a guy like him. All right, now let's go back to the thing. All right, here we go. All right, San Diego, Tennessee, Christmas Friday, 2009. The Chargers win 42-17. Phillip Rivers throws for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chris Johnson ran for 142 yards and a touchdown on his way to a 2,000-yard season. This is one of those games that was supposed to be closer, and the Chargers, man, that offense, dude. You want to talk about, again, we've talked many times about the year that they were number 1 or top 5 defense, top 5 offense, but their special teams was so bad. This is in that era. That offense, when it was humming, man, it was just as good as the Colts or anybody else in the league.
Yeah, the Chargers, I remember, I think they were the 2 seed in 09. They were 13-3. They ended up losing to the Jets in the divisional round. This is a really good Charger team. And I think this was LaDainian Tomlinson's last season with the Chargers, and he went to the Jets in 2010. I remember this game because this is the year Vince Young went to the Pro Bowl because Kerry Collins struggled with the Titans to start the season. They insert Vince Young, they go 8-2, but one of the 2 losses was this game against the Chargers. I remember it because Tennessee ended up being 8-8, but then Johnson was on his way to 2,000. So I knew that the Chargers would win. I didn't think it'd be a blowout, but I was more focused on seeing if Chris Johnson could actually get to 2,000 yards because the way his body is framed, he seemed more like a scat back, a third down back. He wouldn't expect to be an every down back, and he ended up kind of being that for a number of years.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, he's one of those that will eventually have the Hall of Fame or Hall of Very Good. Also, I want to go back to and talk about. I just remember, you know how it is. You can do the same as a kid. You remember watching random games, and I remember watching Cincinnati at Minnesota in 1989. I was a big Cincinnati fan. I just again love the upstart team. Also, they had taken the Niners to the mat the week before or the year before losing, and at that time maybe the greatest Super Bowl that had ever happened, and still a top 5 Super Bowl. That will be a show. We got to rank all the We've decided we got to rank all the Super Bowls uniform games.
Wait, we have the notes on this already.
Yeah, we started. We never actually recorded it.
Oh,
I want to rank because I want to rank. I think we did a top 5. I want to rank 1 to 60. Like I want to rank.
No, we have that.
I don't think we ever actually recorded
it. So we have it, but we just never recorded it. Okay,
yeah, there you go. That's what we do, man. You just leave me wanting. But I remember this game because I was kind of rooting for the Bengals, and that year, first off, Ickey Woods basically gets hurt game 1. I don't know if it actually was game 1, but it was pretty quick. But they actually, people forget they rebound, man. They won like 3 in a row. They were 4-1. Felt like okay, they've kind of figured themselves out. Then they lose back-to-back games, and they're at 4-3. But you're like okay, and then they proceeded to start doing the win 1, lose 2, win 1, lose 2. So they went into this game needing to win. I think they also needed some help, but needing to win to make the playoffs. And the Minnesota Vikings, I don't even know if it was upset them. I can't remember the Vikings this year. Was this the year that they went to the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, 87 was the year.
Yeah. This was the year that the Niners said, "Hey, you remember that? We about to whoop some ass," and they beat them 41-13. But yeah, I just remember watching this game. I don't know why. Like I said, I remember this one too. Houston, San Francisco. Dude, I thought this was going to be a 50-48 type game. You had the 2 best offenses in the league, 2 really good defenses too, mind you, but the 2 best offenses in the league, and this game goes 10-7. Houston wins.
So again, 1993 is the year I started watching sports. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again.
3 weeks later, you're watching this Houston.
Yeah, both teams were 10-4. They ended up being the 2 seeds in their respective conferences. You're expecting this to be a high-scoring game. Houston had the terrible start to this season. They were 1-4, figured it out, won 9 in a row going into this game. San Francisco, pretty consistently good. They're blowing out the teams that are inferior to them, and then they either hang with or lose to decent teams. But yeah, and this game is in Candlestick, Christmas night, Monday. I think it was Monday Night Football. I just remember watching it, or maybe Saturday. I think it might have been Saturday. I just remember watching this. I was like, oh man, the uniforms. This is one of the best night game. Houston all white, San Francisco in their red and gold. Just go back and watch this. This is beautiful. But then the game was just nothing. Like the defense just showed up, not the offenses. But Houston did enough, and they just got the W. Can I go back to 1989?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because that reminded me of the 2021 AFC, where it was just very jumbled, and you didn't know who the best team was. Because the 2 seed in 1989 was the Cleveland Browns, but they were 9-6-1. That's the 2 seed. Probably the worst 2 seed ever, but they ended up making it to the AFC title game. The Bills that season were 9-7, winning the AFC East. So they were the 3 seed, and then the Broncos were 11-5. Probably the weakest 1 seed outside of the 06 Bears. We can do that ranking at some point in the future too.
No, I agree.
Yeah, but yeah, the Broncos, number 1 seed, 11-5. It was just a weak year in the AFC. So whoever made it out that conference was going to just get demolished by the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it was the Broncos.
Well, speaking of the Niners, I want to go back to 93 now because I was just doing some research. This is a weird year for the Niners. So they go.
Yes, sir, it was.
There's 6 losses. Only 2 teams had a better than 500 record. Houston and Dallas. They lose to the Eagles last week of the season. Nothing was in play, but the Eagles were 8-8. They lose to Cleveland in week 2. The Browns were 7-9. They lose to New Orleans in week 4. They were 8-8. They lose to Atlanta in week 15. They were 6-10. So that is the weirdest year for them. I mean, you can make the case that really the only reason they made it back to the NFC title game was they got a destroyed New York team after what had happened. Of course, back then, you had 2 seeds with the bye, but like New York, of course, 93, that was the famous overtime game with Dallas. And you kind of felt whoever lost that game probably doesn't make the Super Bowl. And they beat Minnesota in week 1. They had to go out San Francisco. San Francisco pushed them in. But yeah, it's really where the NFC in 93 was a lot weaker than you remember because Dallas was just so good.
Yeah. And to be fair, the early season losses.
To be fair.
Sorry, I had to.
The early season losses. Remember, 93 is the first year I started watching sports. I remember the Browns with Bernie Kosar as starting quarterback, who would later be the backup quarterback for the Cowboys in the same season. They had a good start. This is year 3 of Belichick, and they started, I think, 3-0, and they were pretty competitive throughout the season. But they ended up, like you said, finishing 7-9. So this is a pretty good Browns team they played on Monday night in Cleveland. The Saints, I think they started 6-0 in 93. Then they faded to 8-8. So this was a team that was still pretty good when they lost to them. The Cowboys, of course, they won the Super Bowl. The Falcons, again, to be fair to the 49ers, Bobby Hebert and company kind of rebounded from a bad start to the season. They were getting competitive, almost getting in playoff contention. So, again, the Falcons, at the time they played these teams, they were actually on a roll or had momentum. So I will give them that. And then the last game of the season was meaningless because they already clinched the 2 seed. So I'm just giving the 49ers a little bit of grace.
All right. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, 2016. This is what I call the Antonio Brown game, as he made one of the best plays to win a game. And I'll show the video. He catches the ball. He's about to be hit. He kind of does the whole like that. And then at the last moment, kind of does a little duck and dive, slides past, stretches the ball out, and they win. And I will say this. There was a time where Antonio Brown was making the case to be the greatest wide receiver in the history of the NFL. Like the numbers and the efficiency and all that he was putting up. I know everybody's going to remember the crazy and him taking off his uniform, and now he's arrested for attempted murder, and he sometimes dislikes Jews, sometimes he loves Jews. I don't know. I legitimately believe the what's his name, Cincinnati, Burfict, that hit on him. I think that changed something in Antonio Brown. I genuinely do. We always make that joke and we judge CT, but Antonio Brown before that hit was not the guy that he turned out to be. Something happened, whether it's that one hit or a culmination of hits. I legitimately think CTE is hitting him. But Antonio Brown, 2016, was the best wide receiver on the planet, and it really wasn't even close.
He was also one of the better return men too, because he would handle punt returns as well. I agree. I think 2016 to 2018, he was still good because he was in that Steeler culture. So he was able to be guarded by great players and, the other alpha males on that team that could minimize some of his toxic behaviors. But man, as soon as he left Pittsburgh, Raiders, it started with the whole, I forgot the cryo thing where he where he froze his feet or burned his feet. I don't know.
He what do you call that? Frost burn.
Yeah.
His feet.
Yeah. So it started with that, and then went to the Patriots. He got kicked off the team. Then he went to the Buccaneers. Like you said, throwing his jersey and leaving the game. Something bad happened to him. And going back to Vontaze Burfict in the 2015 playoffs, Steelers and Bengals, that was probably what started it all.
Do you know the crazy thing is? When he did that for Tampa Bay, he had only in 7 games. That was the 7th game he did that. In 7 games where he only started 3, he had 42 receptions, 545 yards, 4 touchdowns. Not even starting 46% of the games, he was on his way to like a 1,300-yard season. Okay, we got to do this now. 3, 2, 1. Interno of the Pro, Hall of Fame, or Hall of Good. We're just talking records. We're not talking personality off the field, just on the field. Antonio Brown, Hall of Fame or Hall of Good?
First ballot Hall of Famer.
First ballot, 100%. This man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 All-Pro teams. 3 of them is number 1. Led the league in receiving once or twice. Led the league in receptions twice. Led the league in touchdowns twice. Led the league in yards per game once. But he will never get in because everybody's going to remember the last 2.5 years of his career.
100% agree, unfortunately.
Perfect. See how this is how we work. Hey, there's 6 of y'all still watching, dude. I really appreciate y'all. Like, whoa, that was a little creepy. Wait, what? We're supposed to.
I extend my love to
Are you extending your love to me?
you.
I'll extend my love to you if you extend your love to me. All right, let's see. Is there any other ones you want to? Detroit, Miami, 1994. Dolphins win 20-7 on 27-20 on Saturday Night Football. Mainly, I like that because Bernie Parmalee. I always love that name. Bernie Parmalee's 3 rushing touchdowns. The Lions closed it in the second half, but they couldn't overcome the deficit. Don Shula gets his 309th regular season win, which was at the time a league record because the week before he broke it against the week before against the Eagles? Or 2 weeks before.
So this is regular season win. So the Eagle one was So the Eagle one was the season prior, 93.
That's not what Hall of Fame says.
And then Hall of Fame says 92, but they would be wrong. But yeah, 94 and 93 was the wins record overall, and then 94 was just the regular season record.
All right, any more?
We didn't talk about Christmas Eve because there's not been many, but there was one major one in 1977.
I'll talk about it.
Goes to the post. Oakland at Baltimore. Raiders win 37-31 in the AFC divisional game over the Baltimore Colts at the time in double overtime. It was nicknamed Goes to the Post because Dave Casper was the tight end for the Raiders during this time period. Of course, Casper the friendly ghost, so you got the nickname the Ghost. He set up the game-tying field goal in the final seconds of regulation off of a clutch 42-yard pass. Goes to the post. And he also caught the last pass of the game, which was a game-winning touchdown, a 10-yard reception. As of today, it's still the 5th longest NFL game in NFL history. And, this is one of the famous games with a name.
Yeah, the funniest thing is everybody hears goes to the post and think he scored the touchdown. He didn't. He got tackled at the 14, but they kicked the field goal. But the goes to the post. That's literally what Stabler would call it. And it's funny because Casper talked about like that was one of the better plays. It's kind of like the 92 championship game with Aikman and Irvin and Harper. They tell that story where Irvin famously switched the routes because the route had been thrown to the other route the whole game. And on this one play, Aikman throws it to the other one. So goes to the post had worked well all year, but it was because Stabler was checking down underneath Casper. But yeah, he caught the ball and he scored the touchdown. As you say, he scored it. Man, that's the thing about those Raiders. They did it with so many different people. Like you can't really even like they didn't have a true lead back. I mean, you had Pete Banzak and I'm trying to think of the other guy. Yes, Mark Van Egan, and they would just do just enough. You had great wide receivers at the beginning of Cliff Branch, and of course Fred Biletnikoff, Dave Casper, a great offensive line. But yeah, man, those are. And by the way, did you see that trailer, the Madden trailer?
Yeah, I saw the trailer. It's either gonna win a Golden Globe or it's gonna be a Razzie Award nominee. It's either gonna be really good or really bad.
There's no in between on that one.
There's no in between, in my opinion. How do you feel?
Oh, I made you watch that Monday Night Football movie about the making of the Monday Night. It's that. I feel like it's going to be exactly that. It's going to have some, like that Monday Night came out, by the way, look it up, folks, came out in 2002, I think, 3 on TNT. It was a TV movie. It has really good acting. John Turturro as Howard Cosell got nominated for a Golden Globe, as he should have. Everybody acting plays well, but the whole movie is just so cheap looking. And the football players on the field, you can tell they're just PA production assistants running around in uniforms. They didn't hire, like, what most, like Varsity Blues, Friday Night Lights, they all went out and asked for former football players to come play football for them. This movie didn't do that. They were just like, hey, get Jerry from accounting. He'll look good in a cowboy uniform. So it's a fun movie to watch. It's got great acting, but it's terrible. I think that's what this is going to be. I think Nick Cage and Christian Bale and Sienna Miller, I think all of them are going to be perfectly fine. Shane Gillis as a random Raider fan is really, really weird. Like, are they trying to make this a comedy maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I think that's it, brother.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we could have talked about Cowboys on Christmas Eve. They were 3-6 on Christmas Eve, but no real
I
memorable.
just didn't get the Christmas Eve notes, man.
Well, no, it's in there. It's just I just have a link.
Oh, is that what it was?
It was just one of those where there wasn't really any memorable game. Like the last, I would say 2 were probably the best games. There was a 2022 one where Dallas beat Philadelphia, but Jalen Hurts was out.
Yeah.
And there was I think a big catch, like a 50-yard catch in the game, but it was 40-34. Both teams ended up making the playoffs. Philadelphia makes the Super Bowl. Cowboys end Tom Brady's career that season. Lose the 49ers in heartbreaking divisional round matchup. And then 2 years ago, Dallas-Miami. Jason Sanders kicks a bunch of field goals. Miami wins 22-20. Teams that kind of were like mirror images of each other, just in different conferences. The rest of them, like, you can go through the list. It wasn't really much of anything.
I'll post the list online on our Patreon. Okay. Do you like the Christmas games?
I do, as long as they don't impede on a team season. Like, I didn't like last year's because they were on a Wednesday, and I felt that's just not a good turnaround for any team.
Yeah,
Thursday is more
bye week the week before.
Yeah. Thursdays are more normal. Next year, Christmas is going to fall on a Friday, so I could probably see some Friday games. I'd rather just them push it to Saturday, but I get it. It's a gimmick. It'll still drive in ratings. People will be off home.
Yeah.
Just the way the NFL schedule is. As long as it's a Thursday or Friday or Saturday, I'm okay with it.
I was about to say, to me, as long as it's Thursday through Monday, I don't want it on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Thanksgiving is your day. Just keep accelerating. Add a fourth game on Thanksgiving. I would have no problem if they added a fourth game on Thanksgiving. I don't know where you would put it, and maybe that's why they have it, because then you would have you're going to have two teams playing at the same time, unless you made the night game be an East Coast game at 6, like maybe move up everything an hour. And then you'd have like they do on Monday Night Football, and have the third game start at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and then the night games start at 8 p.m. our time, but Central Standard or West Coast, and then you could kind of overlap those games a little bit. Again, I don't want Thanksgiving on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think that's, like you said, it's a tough turnaround. It's just a little weird.
It's the overlapping that might be a problem. That's why they have the 3 games. I think if they do a fourth game, right now they have the Lions play at 11:30, which I love because I love getting up early, but then the Cowboys play at 3:30. They could move the Cowboys game to 2 or 2:30, and then move a third game to 5:30, and then move the last game to 8, which would be the West Coast game. I would like that as well. I think it would work.
You're having to cut down the halftime concerts.
Or you just keep it the way it is, and there'll be some overlapping, but not a lot of overlapping. I'm okay with that.
You know what they should do? As more and more they, like Netflix did them at Christmas, what you could do is have it to where you allow, so like, Detroit's on, let's say Detroit and Buffalo are playing on CBS, and then the Cowboys and Washington are playing on Fox. So the games are going to overlap for like 15 minutes. So allow the Fox broadcast to have their game, and then in the corner, the CBS broadcast. So you're getting a little bit like we do on Red Zone, where you're getting a little bit of both at the same time. And I look, there's going to come a day where ESPN, who now owns NFL Network, will produce all of the games, and you won't. The only difference will be is CBS and Fox will have some branding, because again, apps. You don't have to go to channels. We're going to get to that day. So anyway, I think that's it. I think we did a good job, brother.
Good show.
And for the 6 people that stayed in, if you will email the show, Noe will send you a bottle of liquor. Email the show, odtcnetwork@gmail.com, and tell intern Noe the Pro what color shirt he was wearing, and he will send you a bottle of liquor. I didn't say what you'd send him. We'll send him some party balls or something.
MD 2020.
Drink the pain we have to drink. Some diesel. All right.